Oh, do you want me to do it? I don't know how to do the intro because I just say go,
Well, so here
and
we
then you have the
are.
questions.
We have our good friend King Cringe back on, as well as a new guest, White Pill Media. I don't know if you guys may have been watching his stuff, but he's certainly been on the block around long enough.
But yeah, we just wanted to have you on because there's not a lot of people in the right wing who like actually talk about stuff. There's a couple other people here and there, but like you're one of the like realer ones, you know. So we just want to have you on talk about stuff because we talk about stuff right wing as well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
no, cool to be here.
let's get the question shit on the road, Shimo. Get off the list. Let's do this.
Let me scroll back up and let's see what the first question we had was. Actually, I'll read what you typed if you don't mind. Listening to lots of advice, but in a different way around. Representation matters. When people say identity representation doesn't matter, they're gay. Microsoft marketing figured out a long time ago that only straight white male shit sells because that's the majority of people who watch entertainment, etc. Straight white males aren't represented today, so shit doesn't sell. And you linked an article that was Microsoft vetoed a black woman on the cover of Fable 2.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the thing. Identity actually matters. Um, and I think right wing people are always so negative to do this. Like when you see when video games sold the most, it was just like white dudes, and people were like bored of that. And I think people are again lying to themselves because they don't want to be racist. You know, they don't want to be like, oh, white people, and do their thing. So that's basically the point. Like conservatives, this is kind of a larger point of conservatives just need to stop lying to themselves and stop being, as you say, not wanting not to be racist. So like identity and representation does matter. It's what gamers want to see on the screen. So I don't know if you let's start off with you, Michael Media. Do you have any opinions on that, negative or whatever?
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
Do you think like people need to identify as things to like enjoy a piece of media?
Um, I would say kind of, because it's not really about if they can identify with something, but from my personal experience, I'd say it's more so what they perceive to be as an authentic experience. That kind of makes sense. Does it not make sense? If it doesn't make sense, you can think of it this way. When you think of Western fantasy, it's typically European stuff. And what's more authentic to Europeans than a European person, you know? The same way how if your story is set in Asia, an Asian fantasy, they expect an Asian protagonist. It would be really weird to have a black protagonist unless it's clearly fictitious and over the top, like Afro Samurai. That's the thing. If you claim to make an experience, there's this weird sense of what should be and what shouldn't be, and that's more so about expectations more times than not, as opposed to what the actual game or movie is. The movie might be upfront and say this is completely off the rail bonkers, but if people just demand things fit in this certain boxes,
Uh,
it's hard to deal with it.
I question that a lot because if you look at sales numbers, like does anybody know of any like female franchise that has sold more than like a male franchise? You know what I'm saying?
I think there's some that are like popular, but not like for like a video game, but something that like women have like written for like fantasy or more like young adult or whatever, then like sure, but like not in terms of like video games like with a female player base in mind, not just games that women also enjoy.
It also depends on how you
Yeah.
define the games, because if you do what a lot of them do, sleight of hand, and count like very very casual mobile gaming, then you would have shit like Candy Crush, and that's not fair to compare a game that's a fuck ton of microtransactions to a full $60-$70 experience out the box.
Yeah, that's true. But also even like books, like if you think about the biggest books, it's like maybe not in terms of sales. I don't know how much Colleen Hoover sales, but like Lord of the Rings or I don't know all the sci-fi books that you hear about. I don't know who else sells books like fucking Electric Sheep guy that made Blade
Philip K.
Runner.
Dick.
Yeah, this is where it
Yeah,
gets kind of weird, because of the top selling authors of all time. All of them in the top 10, to my knowledge, are men except for one, Agatha Christie. And she's the number two selling artist if you count Shakespeare. But if you don't count Shakespeare because he's public domain, then Agatha Christie would be the number one seller.
is the story like of Agatha Christie though? Is that like
Agatha
a
Christie is
female
is
detective?
she, no, she is a female writer with varying detectives, usually of the male variety.
Yeah, but I think what is it? It's Poirot, right? So that's like a male character. It's not necessarily a female creator, but
Oh,
it's
okay,
just
I see what
that
you're
the
doing.
entertainment is has to be male, right? And that seems to be like what it is, where like what is it, like the top movies I think are like The Godfather or something.
Top
Like
selling, if you made top grossing, it's now Avengers Endgame, which actually beat Avatar, James Cameron's Avatar, not the
yeah,
Last Airbender.
like Shawshank Redemption. I'm reading off the list: Godfather, Dark Knight, Godfather Part Two, Angry Men, Lord of the Rings, Schindler's List. Totally, totally real. Not that that would be fake, but like none of these things are like. Uh, I guess Shawshank Redemption has a black guy in it, but there's got to be also a white guy in it, right? There's a white guy on the cover, so it's what like people like to pay lip service. Like I guess like the biggest, because I don't really know that much about movies, but like the biggest video game female franchise is like Bayonetta, and like
Oh,
we sell.
I've never played them, but like the Metroid Prime games, I don't know
Oh yeah,
if they sell very well.
Metroid
That's
sells
true.
very well. It's the thing is that they're very particular how they want to do their Metroid games, especially since Samus was the first female protagonist in gaming. It's not like Mario where they're willing to throw anything to the wolves and whatever sticks, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Metroid Prime does sell actually, but it's interesting like compared to like Mario and Zelda. I think they sell more if I'm not mistaken.
Mario and Zelda
Yeah.
are the two big ones.
Yeah.
In the West, it's Zelda. Everywhere else, it's Mario.
Plus, like Metroid has the female in the suit, right? Like one of the things in the original Metroid game was like you didn't even know that it was a girl. Like people thought it was a dude at first. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
just
think that's true.
Yeah, they went for Samus as a male in the manual just for the sake of the twist.
because assuming this all is true, like we all have these examples, right? It's so hard to turn people into like accepting this as true. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know how you would do it. Like you can't just walk up to a normie and like be racist, like if you say white power, they're gonna be like, what? Like I can't do that.
Yeah. So like yeah, I think I know what you're going for. Normie walking down the street, he likes white male protagonists, straight protagonists in like games, media to represent him, but he also wants to believe that if like a brown lesbian was done well, then he would also be willing to enjoy that. Like they want to tell themselves that.
They always say that. Like if you like, I think, you mentioned a couple YouTubers who are like they always say that it's not that it's a lesbian, it's that the lesbian's not done well. But the stats totally say otherwise, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay.
So that type of stuff is like I don't know if you can convince people of that. I don't think it's just frustrating to just see how much people have been, I guess, brainwashed by society to not stand up for themselves, or at least, stand up for truth or something. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, just wanting their own representation, but like yeah, there's like a lot of guys like that, but I would say like the majority of people, like kind of in our scene, didn't grow up like with these like beliefs, but they came to it like I guess I was like a couple of years ago, but before that, like yeah, I guess you could say like kind of happy-go-lucky, conservative, whatever, like more like libertarian guy. So, like I don't know. I think people can change, or well, like there's some flexibility there, but it'll just like take a bit of time, I guess.
The reason why it's harder to
uh,
convince them, especially the older generations as opposed to younger ones, is because of what they were taught, what they believed, and what they saw on TV. There's a reason why a lot of people like make that joke about, oh, the Matrix of the '90s was the best time ever, and they look back now and it's like, maybe the Matrix did have a point because it was true. I mean, a lot of the liberals like to say that we didn't get past racism in the '90s, but that's because they want a perfect world, and perfect worlds don't exist. It was more or less, as a society as a whole, was pretty much on an even playing field. You're always going to have someone higher, always going to have someone lower, but it was still like the last breath of you put the work in, there's a chance you can get things done, because nothing's guaranteed. It's life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and that's what happens. They were willing to go for it, do it, and they saw people who were willing to make names for themselves. You know, you had women who were trying to do stuff in comics in the 80s and 70s, and they did it because they were just generally good at comics. They weren't doing it to prove it because they were a lady, you know? But then come the mid 2000s, especially the early 2010s, like 2012 onward, arguably, it was just full ideology first, identity politics first, and very little of any kind of meritocracy. And that's why it's hard for them. You're telling them to shake off, especially the older ones, like 20, 30, 40 years of their own life experience. It's like the boomers, you know, the boomers are barely starting to understand how much the world has changed. I mean, they started to see it's changed, but they still don't quite comprehend that the world they grew up with is completely gone.
That's true. I might. I don't know if I might sound like a leftist at this point, but this makes you mentioning the boomers makes me think like there should be like children's books that encourage children to like stand up, like be okay with their race. Like how like we ban books that or should ban books that like have uh sexual references in them for children. We should actually have books that tell them. I don't know, like can a child comprehend race? Like I don't know even know if that's like good to put on like at a young age. Like, I'm advocating for children brainwashing. That's kind of ridiculous. No.
Well, I wouldn't call like brainwashing, but I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of challenging. Like, uh, not that I don't want to be a leftist or anything like that, but there is like that comfort of being a leftist, and you're never like afraid to really state most of your beliefs, right? Like, you could just
Yeah.
like if you were a black guy and you went up to another black guy and you said, "Hey, I want more black people in the world. I want us to have more for like our people." That guy's not going to report you to the FBI, and even if he did, nothing's going to happen. But like, you can end up like some pretty bad situations if you go a little too far with like just anyone, coworkers, friends, that type of thing. Like, they're a lot more confident in just saying their beliefs and their values publicly because there's not going to be this pushback.
Mm.
I do think the biggest obstacle is that annoying focus on being a utopia, because they think that's what makes people do the stuff. What do you think people want to believe? Oh, if we just put a black guy or a black girl, a lesbian, a gay, whatever, in anything and everything, we can end all this disrespect, we can end inequality, we can end all this discrimination. Or do you think they want to believe that that everything and every action, every person comes down to your race, your background, your gender, your IQ, your genetics, where you're born, and what language you were raised in. Seven things that you cannot control. Nobody wants to believe that. That's why they think, and that's why they go along with the program. Because if they're in their mind, if they just put a black comedic guy like Will Smith, Chris Tucker, um, Chris Rock, and everything, and that's gonna stop racism, they'll take it. They'll put up with Kevin Hart for another 7, 8 movies if it means they can end racism. Because it's all how it is,
Yeah.
especially with the leftists and conservatives too, to a point where they have an ideology and they want to brute force it one way and shove it. It doesn't matter if it breaks the door or whatever, as long as it gets the results that they want. And they're not going to change it. They're going to keep hammering ideology in the same way how conservatives will buy stuff that just pisses off leftists, even though it may or may not make any logical sense by their own metric, because they just want to brute force their way through.
I think you really got on a good point with saying about utopia, because I think that is the problem. People do think they can fix the world, and personally, just because of our religion, I don't think the world is fixable necessarily. I think it's kind of be fucked up for like a really long time, and people think they're above racism or whatever. People think they're above like violence, and they're really not. And it's just an unfortunate circumstance. And I think recognizing that reality rather than just be, yeah, if everybody just lives together long enough, things will just be fine. It's like it's not like that's not how the world actually works. And I think it's just I don't know. I guess in the future reality is gonna come at people really fast, and it's you're either gonna live through it and accept it, or like bad, like people who still leave their kids in public school to like get their heads bashed in by like black students and shit like that. Like, I'm sorry, bro. Like, you like there was this. I don't know if you saw in the news recently. There was that one guy whose like kid got I think like beat at school to like death, and he just was like, yeah, well, my son wouldn't want to be racist. Like it's not racism that's the problem. Like, I guess we don't need to say anything. The world is just gonna, sort the people out one way or another. So yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, like you've heard like several stories like that where like someone's child or loved one is like the victim of that type of crime, and then it's just like, well, I don't want to be racist, and like just like that mentality is like kind of unfathomable to me. Like I don't know. Like I know like uh some like left leaning people, but like even them, I don't think they would like go that far. But I don't know. Maybe there are like leftists that are like genuinely like that, and they really do believe that. Well, this is just like a one-off thing, and if I just let it go, then like I don't know, utopia is coming still.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to happen to another kid at this school or whatever.
it's the Justin Trudeau quote. If you kill them, they win.
Oh my god.
People
Right.
believe that.
So here's the thing about it. The reason why the 60s to some degree until the 90s worked is because they had something that unified. If you want to have different backgrounds, you have to be unified by mainline culture. That's just how it works. You can't have 20 people in the same sphere, 20 different bubbles, but not have it end well, you know?
Yeah.
And I was going back to bring back to the utopia thing. Did you guys ever read a children's book called Yoko?
No.
It's one of those
Nope.
one of those anthropomorphic kids books. I remember this book because it stuck out to me as a kid. This family was from Japan. They've come to America. Of course, they're cats, you know. And so, of course, she tries doing her Japanese thing in America, and of course, the kids find it strange. So the teacher in the book says, "Okay, we're going to have a food culture date. Everyone brings their culture, food, and everything, and everyone tries everything, but nobody tries the sushi. You know, like typical. It's weird stuff." And so, but only one kid later actually goes back and tries the sushi, and then she sees a kid and talks to him, and they become friends. But notice, she was happy having one friend. It wasn't the whole class got convinced. All the other kids thought she was still weird as shit. It was only one fucking kid that liked this girl. Only one kid. And when you teach like that, it's a case of you teaching people that you can do your thing. Not everyone's gonna like you, but that's okay. Focus on those one or two people who do like you. But nowadays, it's if everyone doesn't like you, there's something wrong with them, and we have to admit in all these rules and change it. So and that's not possible. Like you can handle one person. You can't control a class of 30 kids and force them to like somebody. It's just unnatural.
Yeah. There's always one weeb. So that one guy with yellow fever.
In my in my
Yeah.
experience, though, the black weaves are some of the easiest people to get along with, and some of the kindest people I've ever fucking met.
Yeah. I mean, Goku, good times. But I think that's the topic. I guess. I got much else. So Goku, let's go. Number 2.
Okay, it says here what Media wrote here. Realistically, a book isn't going to be the breakout success that we want, but probably a video game could, or a comic even. I think once there's some breakout, they will lift a lot of boats. I still like reading and writing, but I don't think a book will launch things, and also don't think parroting the left is a path to victory. And Tifa Stone Toss is an example. They parody him, and all they do is make crappy edits and make people aware of who Stone Toss is. Which one do you think would be a much more likely success, a comic book or a video game?
I would say probably like yeah, I don't know. I would say probably a video game. I know some of like the Comicsgate stuff, but a lot of that is just like grifters, people that just take money from Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and they never deliver their product. Or if they do deliver it, it's like years away or even months to get like maybe 40, 50 pages. Nothing like that can ever be successful or like be some kind of like cultural movement. There's some like manga stuff that I like, and I do like some anime, so I'm not like completely like just bash Japan all the time. But I know that like that stuff's like weekly for a lot of it. But like even if it was like a monthly comic format or something, that could have some staying power. But like another thing, like an advantage I guess Japan has over us is like from what I understand, like the anime that's created is like used as a advertisement for the manga. So it's like it's this huge advertisement tool that costs a lot of money to produce. I would assume like hundreds of thousands of dollars per episode
Yeah,
or something along those
it
lines.
it can, but also depends because sometimes a manga is so popular, a studio will actually come to the publisher and ask for the animation rights. But other times, animations get commissioned, so it actually depends.
Okay.
So it's not a one size fits all. Because and sometimes there's a game, it's an advertisement for the anime, which is an advertisement for the manga, which is an advertisement for a light novel, and it just creates it into one big gigantic brand, one big fat movement, and it sells. Especially with the merchandising game nowadays, it's like Mel Brooks as Yogurt in Spaceballs could only dream of this level of merchandising.
I think a lot of the problem. I mean, I think that's true, Shimo. And like you're like all the technicals are like correct, right? But I think the main problem is racial homogeneity, and this is what I mean. So like Japan is like one high trust society, right? And so they say, oh, this book, let's make that into an anime, and it's like their nation, right? The problem in America is we don't have that. The problem in America is, oh, look at this investor. I wonder what race this investor is, you know? And then if they see a white guy doing something, oh, I guess we're different races, and they won't pick it up for like, you know what I'm saying, for like a book
No, you're,
to
you're,
an
you're not
anime.
completely wrong, but again, it goes back to having a baseline culture. For example, one of the most popular anime in and out of Japan right now is Vinland Saga, and it's arguably one of the most researched works on Vikings. That again, I haven't seen Western people go this nuts over a manga like that since Berserk, and that's because it's all built on the
Yeah,
Viking
but
history. But I'm just saying, it's very well researched, very well written, but it's still done by the Japanese because they have that baseline culture to go off of, In the
I'm
West,
not talking about that. I'm
ah,
talking about when the author, like in Japan, the publisher is Japanese and the creator is Japanese. In
okay,
America, the investor, I don't know, maybe he's a black guy. Let's just say a black guy investor. I don't know many rich black guys, but do the math. And they own all these publishing companies. So if a white guy writes a book that's really good, who's gonna pick that up, right? And that, like, this might be reversely true in like in any other culture. If there was like an elite of like whites in Japan, they might not publish every Japanese book. Maybe they would search for other gaijin or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
no, I get
Yeah,
you.
okay.
Like race brings brought, and then they do this as their own national thing to push rather than if you have two separate races, then they're not going to support each other, right? It's like tribalistic, and this is I think the problem with like multi-diversity is it's very hard to get. It's not very hard, but like other tribes won't support other tribes. It's like when Microsoft they hire Indians and they just hire more Indians into Microsoft, that
Hmm,
type of shit, which is
I
why.
Right.
get you.
Okay.
So I feel like if we have a machine, we need to somehow get white rich billionaires. I don't know if that's even possible. Like it's kind of.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's some.
I I don't know, but like I know people talk about like Elon Musk or like Peter Thiel or Thiel, whatever, but like I don't know. I haven't like seen anything from them where like they're investing in like kind of right wing culture or like white culture. I haven't really seen that. There's like the Daily Wire, and like their
Yeah,
movies and whatever, but I don't know. I think like that's probably not going to happen. We're probably not going to have like a billionaire investor. Yeah, but um, I just
So
think like something that's like easily shareable and like stuff that can like get around, not like TikTok. I think that would be like a bad rabbit hole to try like condense some of like our messages or beliefs to TikTok. I think that's kind of a losing battle, like just investing in people that have like no attention span. But I don't know, like Murdoch, very popular. Their videos, they're funny and they're just very shareable. So I think that's why that has like such staying power. I think that if that was like a book, probably not very successful, or it wouldn't be so widespread. So that's where I kind of lean to like a comic. It's easy to read, you know, there you go. It can be digital, or like a video game, people can like invest a lot of time. And like maybe another factor is like there's like community, right? If you like watch a popular TV show, you can go online and there's a bunch of other people talking about that TV show or that movie, whatever, and you have like that community experience. I know like you're bonding over like consumer goods, but like that's natural, that's fine. But like indie right-wing fiction, I probably not a lot of other people have read the book that you've read, so you can't share it with too many people. So that's probably like another factor where like a book is going to be like more difficult to like spread around, and it's like a bigger time investment too.
yeah, yeah. I guess like if there was a, I guess short form content is the way to go to like get people in and uh get people invested because yeah, I guess people. I guess from reading my stats, people don't really read books now, but it's true. Like I think video games and movies do have like the widest reach. It's just getting to that point is so difficult because like to do one of those productions, it like takes so much money and time, and if you're doing things, I guess on social media, right, you're beholden to X's rules. So I guess it's just like slow social media growth on the right platforms over time. Um, like I guess people use Telegram, or I personally use Post. So, but it's so weird because I find that the people on like those certain things like Gab or whatever, maybe I'm wrong, but um, they aren't interested in entertainment. Like I've posted on Post before, and nobody seemed to care. So it's just really hard to find the intersection between people who care about entertainment in the right wing, like in a pop culture sense, because even the stuff that's most viral, like Stone Toss, right? That's like a culture political comic. That's not like a video game that they're all playing. Like, yeah, I don't know how many people like played the Great Rebellion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't really know if like the Great Rebellion, hopefully, like a decent amount of guys, like that's kind of the hope that they'd make some money and then can expand and do like bigger stuff to like draw in more people. But I guess like engaging with Stone Toss, it doesn't like take effort compared to like reading any, you know what I mean? It's like a quick little comment. It takes, I don't know, 5 seconds to read. It's like it's funny. And then like maybe there's one of those every couple days or so. Um, yeah, just like kind of reaching that crossroads. I don't know. I've kind of thought lately that maybe like being more aggressive could be a strategy, like going after kind of like conservatives like share some values and some beliefs, but they don't go like nearly far enough, and they're kind of like a wall against us. And then like kind of on YouTube or whatever, you have like your anti-woke content creators and such, and they're like our conservatives. They're just kind of in the way, and then like not giving like a message that might actually change things to people. They're just kind of complaining and not doing anything. So I don't know. I was thinking like maybe that's not a good strategy, but like going like kind of calling those people out to like steal their audience. I don't know. Or maybe the people that are watching those people just like watching the video and then like going like I'm tired of woke shit in like the comment section. Like I did used to like those videos like years and years ago. So I get it, like they're easy to just listen to when you're doing whatever, but they also don't like do anything.
Yeah, at this
Your
point
Shimo
though, when
gun.
it comes to creativity, was that people really don't want to move on. Like I said, a lot of these Iron Age stuff is just a lot of the Iron Age stuff is literally just rewinding the clock. It's like if this whole movement of entertainment was a car crash, right? They're not going back to when the car had the first big piece of damage that was done, like under the car, on the side, or whatever. They're literally rewinding the clock to the day of the crash before they got in the car. Your car is still fucked up. It's still gonna have and be accident prone. And sometimes the only way around it is to either go back even further and prevent it from happening, or you have to just throw the goddamn car away and get a brand new car. And nobody wants to throw away all those fucking memories with their car. It's like, if you look at the biggest things right now, in Comicsgate or Iron Age, whatever you want to call it nowadays, some people use them interchangeably, some use them separately. What was it? It's Razor Fists, was it the Shadow of the Badlands? And then you
I
have
think that's it.
Eric July's comic, but both of them were just going back to the 70s and 90s respectively. You could argue that there's nothing really like
The
new or experimental about these comics. They're just
biggest
going
one I think
back.
in the right wing is Common America. I think is pretty popular.
I was gonna get to that last.
Oh,
I was gonna get to that
is that
last.
the anime thing?
Yeah, that's the one
Yeah,
by
the
Tim
anime
Lim
girls.
from Iconic Comics. That's the American Japanese hybrid. It's so big that even their Japanese Twitter has confirmed that they're in talks with a Japanese
That's the one
publisher
that's
to get
most.
it published and
I
localized here
think.
in Japan.
Yeah, I think that's the one that's most viable. They've had like 10 volumes of it, and
Mm-hmm.
so I haven't read it. So,
It's actually pretty
but to
good.
me,
What I recommend, because
okay,
every 4 volumes they sell an omnibus with those 4 volumes. So 1 through 4 is one omnibus, 5 through 8 the second omnibus. So when volume 12 comes out, that's going to be another omnibus of 4 volumes. That's the way I recommend reading it. But that's just because where I'm at here in Japan, it would literally cost me so much money to get a physical version.
Oh,
but
so with the Common America thing, like I haven't read any of it, but like 10 volumes, that's a decent amount of like content for
And
like new people to get on. I
oh,
don't
there's
know if
more than that
the
though. There's more than that because they actually have small little
oh,
animation shorts. They did a little VTuber thing recently, and for a while they actually did have 2 web comics that were going. And then there's another series that Iconic does called Black Hops, and they had a crossover event.
I don't know how they do that.
Yeah, so
okay.
as
So like
all that stuff's going on.
yeah, that's probably like another thing where it's like they're gaining steam and traction where it's like Comicsgate, yeah, a lot of people don't deliver, but I guess on the Iron Age side of that, I think like they had like the Anvil magazine. I
Mm-hmm.
think only two from, unless I'm wrong, but like maybe two or three of those like magazines have come out over like a pretty long period of time. So it's just it doesn't come out fast enough to like hold an audience, like hold their attention to have that kind of like staying power or whatever to like to make an impact.
Yeah, because it is true. Like when you were talking about the Japanese people, right? Like they have a weekly system, and they have series. When series go on breaks, they probably have other series that pick up the slack just because it's weekly. It can't like. I guess Common America is good, whatever that means, but you would need multiple series to like pick up the like it's like building critical mass, right? So it also like doing something weekly. I don't even think Common America does that.
Con America does
Like,
not do weekly. It's just way too much, especially for the level of detail and
yeah,
and the way the story is going. Common America knows that it's more fun in short bursts, so it's just one issue that's a fun short ride, and then it's good enough to keep you waiting for the next one. But it's not like Naruto or the other big shonen anime where it's like, no, I gotta see what happens next week. Otherwise, I have to wait for 3 episodes of filler on the anime. I can't wait that long, bro.
Yeah, I guess like a weekly format like can be good, but I don't think people necessarily have to do that because like there's definitely anime I've watched where it's like several episodes in a row where it's like extremely little happens and or like I don't read too much manga, but like I have had friends who are like, yeah, like basically 10 chapters in a row or like blah blah blah, like you can skip so much. So it's like just because it is content coming out doesn't necessarily like mean it's good. I think it just has to be like it has to be like good enough and like super fast, or like it's like really good but like it's still like slower. But
You know,
I don't know like anyone that's like I don't know like a ton of people that are like keeping up that pace of like either way, I guess.
yeah. The thing when it comes for anime, at least, a lot of time when you have those annoying filler like the 3 episode Dragon Ball fight or the 5 episode Naruto's or whatever, where nothing really happens, it's because the manga is still going on and they're doing it intentionally to give the mangaka more time to write his shit. If you compare that to the JoJo adaptation, where they're just adapting the entire arc, it's already finished. It can adapt in about like without any filler at all. And that's why the JoJo anime, even if you don't like the art style, the pacing is relatively good because it doesn't have that filler problem. That's why One Piece has that god awful 1,000+ episode
Yeah,
issue, but it's been running since '97, I think, if not earlier.
yeah. I think like that's like all issues of like, yeah, just content being made out. I think a large problem is that in the right wing again, like because we're iced out of like mainstream options. Because I mean, people can say like Japanese people are like spending too much time to make mangas. Because if you've ever seen a mangaka schedule, they're basically killing themselves. But the plus side of that is, you know, they have the option if they want to kill themselves making a manga and like only sleep like 4 hours a day and then like wake up every morning and do art. Like nobody in the right wing can produce that because as far as I can tell, most of us have like day jobs. Like even Common America, those guys still have day jobs and like what they produce quarterly or whatever. Like I don't see how unless this is the thing, right? So if the only way to make it go faster would be to lower quality. Find ways where you can lower quality to make it weekly is the only solution I can see for that
And
kind of stuff. Like,
there is a way you can do that. Like one of my favorite ways to compare. I mean, if you look at the detail of Naruto and look at the detail of something, let's say like Boku no Hero, because those two were very big with Shonen Jump, you can see the level of detail they put in all the works. But if you compare that to Bleach, which is mostly like all black or white or just lines for backgrounds, or even things like Chainsaw Man, where it has a good amount of detail, but it's you can tell where they cut corners to keep it as consistent as possible. It's fine. That's the reason why Berserk had to go. I think it was a bi-monthly magazine, so every 2 months. But that's the price
I
you
think
pay.
Berserk is a prime example
Yeah,
of what happens if you don't curb your flexing. Like the dude died before his manga finished. Like,
Well,
There's a
or
little more to
with
it than just that. I'll make it quick, then you can go white pill. The thing is, one, he got distracted by Idolmaster a lot, so that was a big thing. And two, this guy would go in pixel by pixel when he did do. His editor was telling him, "Stop it! You're killing yourself. This isn't worth it. Just put the picture out. It's good enough." Yes,
Well,
this.
I always kind of felt with Berserk is like he knew what he was doing. Like he had like a really solid outline all the way through like the Golden Age. And then like from there, to me, it seems like with all like the heavy breaks and that he's kind of like had a general idea, but not like a really thought out outline. Because like the Golden Age, I think that was done like really well, and I haven't read the rest of it, but like I know what happens, and it seems like kind of just sputtering, trying to figure out exactly where to go next, and
Yeah.
that's why it just really got dragged out too.
Nah, he admitted he was very distracted by Idolmaster. I think he did have an outline, but he also seems like the kind of guy who's he thinks a little bit too much about every single detail. So what for us, we might say, okay, that's good, okay, that's good, but then he might think of like three, four, five different ways it could go wrong, and say, no, I could use this later, use this here, put that there. So he wants to get really detailed and keep it really on like down to the micrometer, you know? Because some authors are
yeah,
just like that.
I think porn addiction, you should probably stop it because it'll kill you before you get your manga.
Bro,
Yeah, I
that's High
mean,
School of the Dead, bro.
I guess this does happen when you do an epic fantasy though, like because as White Pill Media said, like I don't know if this is true, but was it George R. R. Martin? He totally fucked over his Game of Thrones. even to this day. Like, those are like both epic fantasies, right? Like long ass. Maybe don't do that. Maybe epic fantasy should be phased out, and you guys should just make short fantasy, okay? Because I think Lord of the Rings is only like 3 books, right? Like,
Yeah, Lord of the Rings is 3 books. I kind of just I think almost everything I've read that's epic fantasy. Like I tried Wheel of Time. I stopped like 200 pages in. Recently, I forced myself to finish the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. That's really fucking bad, and
can't wait for the video.
yeah, I guess maybe a few weeks, but just like super. I'm kind of I'm kind of done with it. Joe Abercrombie, he sucks too. Like I don't know, just like I kind of like what a lot of like the right wing guys typically do, where it's like shorter, but it's like it's tighter, it's better. It's not like these 1,000 page tomes where like yeah, you could easily like cut 300 or so pages and maybe more.
Well, I think that it's Wheel of Time. I think same thing happened, right? Like the dude died before his series finished. I think
Hmm.
people vastly over. I don't know if people, but like, let me just as it comes out of my people vastly overestimate how long they have to live. Okay, like I'm gonna create 12 books. Are you insane, dog? Like it seems three. Okay, make three at best. At best, for me personally, just writing my own stuff. Like every book could be the end. Like I don't do this sequel bait nonsense because I don't know if I'm living tomorrow. So and that sucks too. Like if you read like a two-parter or something, and then the author dies, what the fuck are you gonna do with that? So
He was too gay. That's why he died. um,
to
then
get AIDS.
Yeah, so I'll say this. That's one reason why I don't like fantasy so much. Because I'm sick and tired of picking up a book and it's like book one of a 7-part series, and then they
Yeah.
never put it out. Like, I mean, people love to rag on George R. R. Martin for not putting out 7 fucking books, but let's face it, most motherfuckers couldn't even put out the 4 that he put out. Most would get to book 2 and be
Yeah.
done. But in your case, have you ever heard of Golgo 13?
I think you
Nope.
maybe told me once, but I don't
So
really
Golgo
remember.
13 is a seinen manga, and so shonen is for like teenagers, kids, while seinen's for like adult, like 16 plus. So it can range from like Ghost and Shells is seinen, um, Samurai Champloo would be a seinen, Afro Samurai would be another one, Cowboy Bebop. That kind of age range, the more mature stuff. So less of that Dragon Ball Z kind of nonsense. But it was a seinen manga that was basically Japanese James Bond, but his shtick was that he was an assassin who could make the shots that could break physics. That was his thing. But what the mangaka did, I forget his name, he passed away, I believe last year. He wrote he had to deal with his publisher, where he would not publish weekly or monthly, but he would publish an entire 400-page volume. But each 400-page volume was a self contained story. You didn't need to read another story for it to make sense. You could just pick it up and go from there. Because he had your exact same philosophy. I don't want my story to die on a cliffhanger. So if I finish the book, it comes out. If I don't finish, it never comes out. And the last story that gets published is the one that's a complete story. It's had a couple of
Yeah.
games, a couple of live action adaptations, 2 anime series. It's worth checking. I feel like action and sexy spy stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way I feel like it should be, but you know, people make their own decisions in life. I don't know if there's much else to say on the topic.
Well, the other thing
Marco,
also
do you
that
have
if you're
anything you
doing
want?
it more on like traditionally as opposed to on the internet now, you also have ratings to worry about because Bleach when it came out was like one of the highest rated manga uh, of its of the age range. But what happened is that it went on for so long and it kept dragging on at points that it fell below the top 10, and that means you're on the chopping block. And I told him, you have like a month and a half to finish this, and if it's not finished a month and a half, it's gonna remain unfinished. So he just rushed the fuck out of that ending because it only had like 4 or 6 weeks to end it because he didn't plan well
Yeah.
enough ahead. To be fair, after the first arc, the third arc of rescuing Rukia, like he just went wherever. He forgot he had entire characters and locations, even inventing new characters did the same thing the other ones did. Went from being one of the best to holy crap, man! How did you fall so fast?
The nature of the game, man. It's just yeah, when again, overestimation of ability. you gotta just really check yourself when it comes to shit like that. I feel like just don't. Your publisher's gonna fuck you over. You are gonna fuck yourself over. Just like living is already hard. Art is already hard. And if you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this for another 20 years, man. This is gonna be a 20 years. No, you're gonna die. Something's gonna happen. You're gonna break your arm. You don't have insurance because you're a freelancer or some shit. You're done. You know.
Did we want to touch on like the parroting the left is
Yeah,
not like okay.
yeah. Let's do that next.
Why
Okay.
parody? Go on, sir.
Yeah, so like with leftists, they do like Antifa stone toss, and it's not effective. It doesn't like do what they wanted to do. Like it can never like own stone toss, I guess, because it's funny, it's short. The people that like stone toss are gonna like him. The leftists that don't like him don't really care. And then if some like third party were to see it, they would only be interested in checking out like the original thing as well, right? So it's just giving attention to the right. And I think probably the left's best strategy is to kind of ignore and kind of block, like shadow ban the right wing. Like, unfortunately, I think that's like an extremely effective tactic. Um, like what American Krogan, he tried out like that Fallout 4 mod, and it was just kind of banned, and then like that just kind of like sucked all the air out of that. He was like, I think it was like trying to just like historically accurate Fallout 4, so it was like replacing minorities of like whites and like gays with straights, but it just kind of got killed, and then whatever like kind of momentum was with momentum that was with that just went away.
Yeah, that's kind of like the Twitter thing where you start a big Twitter following, then you get like banished, and then you lose your momentum. Like building your products on other people's foundation is like really shifty.
There goes half of YouTube and all those reaction videos now. Careful, man.
Yeah, but actually thinking about it, is there like a right wing example of us? What do you think of like where we've parried the left and like failed?
If we're
Uh,
being like the Daily
I,
Wire, that Family Guy ripoff, I'd say yeah, because it had the same kind of obnoxious humor. Like that you could argue it was just the same jokes, but just oh, it's our side now versus their side, and it was just equally irritating.
Well, thinking about it this way, so you know, guys, Joker 2 just came out, right?
Yee!
And
yeah,
spoilers, Joker gets raped. Okay, spoilers.
I
And
thought
so
people were
like
joking about that.
No, he
no,
gets raped.
so
No,
in rea-
here's what
Like I
happens.
saw
Okay,
it where it's like Joker, and then it's like the fat white cop, and his hands on his shoulder, and I'm like, I hope that's not real.
it's real, but
no,
here's the funny thing
yeah,
about it. About this, I think King Cringe was gonna say this, but after that, they try to break him out of jail, and he says no, just leave me here. And then that's when he gets stabbed by the guy who's supposed to be quote unquote the real Joker.
I mean that also sucks,
Oh yeah, bro.
but
And he died by like not only getting shanked to death, but then having like his like the smile cut across his face.
yeah. But I guess what I was gonna say was so the internet collectively, right,
Hmm.
was like, haha, Joker gets raped, and there's this huge, thing just making fun of Joker. But what if instead of doing that, like we just ignored Joker 2, didn't make memes about it, and instead just posted Stone Toss or I don't know like what other they posted the next Negative XP song or something.
No, you're not
Hmm.
You
wrong about
know,
that at all. That's a good strategy.
the left one game like Joker wouldn't even matter, wouldn't even be it would be
Yeah,
like
but
it
I think
disappeared off
there's
the
a bit
face
of a
of the earth.
slight difference. I'd argue, and I mean very slight, like razor thin. Like you could ignore my opinion if you want, but Joker One had a good amount of hype behind it and a solid following. Again, $1 billion without China,
Yeah.
R-rated, never been done before, and that's why I had a lot of things to stand on. If it was like Star Wars, where it was dead, for the past 7, 8 years, people were talking about, was it the new Trans Trooper that came out like the other day? It's like, bro, like, aren't you the guy telling me to ignore Star Wars? Not you, but like the YouTuber. Like, aren't you telling me to ignore Star Wars and let it die? Yet you keep covering this shit. Like, just
Mhm.
stick to Legends. Like I'm following your advice. You can't follow your own.
And like, I guess like the Joker, right? It's like coded for us, but like, I mean, the movie is like, here's Joker. He's like in love with this black woman who's also a single mother. He's like kind of Antifa because like Bruce Wayne, or sorry, not Bruce Wayne, Thomas Wayne is like your stand in kind of Trump guy. And they're like rioting in the streets against him. On the subway, who are the guys harassing this white woman at night? It's a group of white guys, not another race. And it's like, but like our people kind of like embraced it, but I wouldn't say like joke. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah,
left considers
Yeah,
Joker our movie. The left considers Trump to be like our guy. Where it's like
yeah,
I don't
like
know if it's important that like Joker isn't, and like I don't know if we're supposed to like take it as ours or what.
no, I just think
I
it's a
think
movie that came out. They had their message, but of course they don't describe it clear enough, and so it gets mixed, lost in translation. Death of the author, whatever, you know. Like the thing about the Joker too, the Joker too, because how we, you know, he gets the stabbing and all that, of course, and the rape and all that, and they start beating him up in prison and all that stuff. That only happens when he says, "I no longer want to be Joker." When he was still Joker and still embracing it, nobody messed with him. When he gives it up,
well,
they start disrespecting him and all that shit goes down. So it's not intentional because the message, I mean, the producers are trying to clearly paint him like, oh, you deserve all this because you're an evil person. But when you paint it like that, with him relinquishing his identity and then the disrespect comes, what's the unintentional secondary message you could interpret from that?
well, I
Don't
think
don't
there's
give up, double,
two.
triple the fuck down. Because if you do, they're gonna
I think
disrespect
there's
you. If you don't,
two. I think there's two things here that's going on, right? So I agree with white people media in the sense that a Joker was never our movie. Stop pretending it is. Like as like you were saying, like Barbie's not our movie. Like none of this shit is ours. And when we try to co-opt it, I'm not sure I like that. I think it's bad. Like because what happens is that they do destroy it, right? Like if you put your hope in Joker 1 for some odd reason, I don't know why, they're gonna give you Joker 2, and then they're gonna be like, oh, Joker gets raped. But the flip side of that coin is, for some odd reason, they react to that and then like make really shitty stuff just to fuck with us. Like, so if we could like pretend to like stuff just to make sure that they make bad. I don't know if you follow this. Like, we fake like stuff. They're like, oh, the chuds like this stuff, so now we're gonna make it bad, right? And because we fake like something, they now have to make it bad, and then they lose money off of like the normie audience. You know, like I don't know if that's like a viable weapon, if that makes any sense.
No, yeah, I'm following that. Uh, Huh. Yeah, but like with Joker or Barbie, Fury Road, whatever, it's just like we want to like be a part of the conversation. You know what I mean? Like we want to insert
Yeah,
ourselves into it, where it's like, actually, this is the message or whatever, trying to spin it however we can, just so like we can be involved. I guess I would say, but like I don't know, like. I think that's kind of difficult where it's like if we pretend to like something, like if we all
yeah.
rally around like, hey, we love The Last of Us 2 or whatever, like do they come out with Last of Us 3 and now like
I
Ellie is
well,
straight and like
that's well. To be
I
fair, they
don't know.
already had lots of his TV shows, so that pretty much worked it out in the long
That's
term.
bro.
But the thing
I
is,
gotta
it
say,
can
like
be
when
done.
I
I
saw
mean,
The Last of Us lead, that shit is so funny.
oh, bro,
Like,
I felt
oh
bad
my
for the little
goodness.
actress they got to play Ellie because she wanted to play the games, and they're telling her, "Don't play the games, don't play the game." I'm like, bro, that way to give a red flag when people who
Yeah,
don't.
yeah. Continue. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, but it can be done. I mean, look at Morbius. They literally memed a second fucking movie into existence because it was gonna go out of theaters. They memed it back in and memed a sequel. Nobody saw the fucking sequel. It's possible
Yeah,
to meme it. The difference is that nobody gives a shit about Morbius. That's why it was so easy to do the fucking meme. When it's a longer, older IP, it's a bit trickier.
I think Whitepool Media is right though in that like we're giving them energy, right? Because actually thinking about it, if even if the whole we fake like stuff worked, like I think the entertainment would have been bad anyway, right? Like there's kind of no point to giving them energy, if that makes any sense. Like, uh, yeah, like Last of Us 3, like it would have been bad anyway. Like Joker, I mean, Joker was probably bad from the get go, right? Because as you were explaining, Whitefield Media, like he falls in love with a black girl, all this, against white rich, like it was already bad. So like us making it worse isn't necessarily going to make it better. I think we need to just like be more productive and just create more stuff. And I think this pulls into like the second topic where is it the creator's fault or is the audience's fault? Where is it our fault for not producing enough stuff that's like cool because we don't have the money, or is it the audience's fault for they want to see and like the anti like the Joker 2 subs video? They don't really care about like Nutcracker or something like that, like whose fault is it? Like, you know, where energy is directed to, because we need to direct the audience's energy, I think, to the right wing and not to the left. But, you know,
Right. Just I don't know. We're just there are a lot of like podcasts and everything for this side of things. I think there's a decent amount of books. Like there's like good stuff, stuff of varying quality. Some of it's bad, but I don't know. Like if we just like sampled a bunch of right wing people, and it's like, okay, are you willing to read a book by a right wing author? And it's like maybe some say yes, some say no, just because they don't read, or like the guys that even do read, it's like, no, I only read the classics, or whatever. So I think it's just like a really small pool of people. I don't know. I don't think that means like stop writing books or anything like that, because some things just work best as books in that media. But do we need to put like more of a focus and such on like entertainment that could like engage with a wider audience, where it's like maybe you do like write an amazing like indie right-wing book. I don't know if like would it get 1,000 purchases? I don't know. But I could see like a game, and like a game could spread like better. Like a comic, like, hey, check out this art. Like that's easy to like show people. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like I've said I don't know too many times, but maybe the audience is to blame somewhat if it's just a lot of crying about like the right doesn't make art or blah blah blah. No, we do have people, they are making art, but they also have to like balance work and family life and other obligations. We don't have like people throwing tons of money at like our creatives so that they can just focus all their time on this. So just need to have like more realistic expectations that like, no, we can't like just produce a video game at the drop of a hat or a movie or anything like that. We're not there. And then just yeah, kind of just accept things for how they are. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I'd
what
put
do you
at
think?
this case, I'd put a bit more of the blame on the audience. Just a bit more. I'd say like 60-40. The reason I put a more shifting blame towards the audience is because they kind of have this weird perception where they want to go back in time to in terms of the identity and the quality of things, but then they still expect this newer AAA coat of paint. AAA coat of paint comes with millions of dollars in backing. You only get that if you're super lucky on a Kickstarter. You got money yourself from the job, like being a lawyer or something, or you get investors. And if you got investors, there's a chance that can go south of heaven. When it comes to creators, are they making the shit that they like, or are they doing it with the same spiteful mentality that those people who are making, Joker 2, Last of Us 3 are having? Because if you're speaking shit solely out of spite, with the middle finger, then you're still in that same mindset that your opponent is in. And that's not going to lead to a good product. It's going to stand the test of time. It might curb check them now, but you're not going to have anything to pass down for future generations.
Oh, you just ruined my entire career. Thanks, bro.
You're welcome.
I guess H3 is canceled.
No, more like H3 2.8. You don't officially release a third one, just 2.8.
Right, right. No, I agree. I think the audience is more to blame. I do think there is, in my opinion, okay. I know I'm going to sound arrogant again, but I don't think that the right wing respects their opposition enough. I don't think they know, like I don't see many of them researching other artists who actually do good stuff on like because every time I see a Comicsgate stuff or something, it's like it's this very specific 80s to 90s. Nobody's doing anything that's like cutting edge. Nobody's doing anything. I mean, I'm sure there's some, but it's very rare that people actually look for techniques and stuff like that that are like copying very stuff just that's like on ArtStation or whatever, or following new trends, stuff like that. I think that's a lot to blame on the creators, but I think the audience is more so to blame in the fact that they refuse to press Google. They refuse to like search. Like they just sit down and they're like, oh, I don't want woke stuff. And instead of just like pressing Google, because we all didn't just, you know, it wasn't like any of this stuff was presented to us. We had to go search it out. Like we wanted it, right? So it's actually everybody else's fault when they don't see the things that they like. And I get equality is a problem, but you should at least be aware, right? You should be aware that this stuff is coming. Most of the audience isn't aware that a lot of this right wing stuff exists, which means they're not even trying. I'm aware it exists. I just think it like most of it's bad, but I think awareness and just and it pisses me off how much people don't just Google stuff. It pisses me
Well,
off how yeah.
sorry. But like with Googling stuff, like I don't know, like I've never done it, but like if you Googled like right wing indie books or like
Yeah.
I don't think we have like a website or something where it's like easily searchable. It's like here's a list of like based creators or whatever because I think some people like try to fold themselves in with like at least like the anti woke crowd, but like there's a huge difference between like that and like our thing because like a lot of like the anti woke crowd they'll like have everything the left does, but like less obnoxious about it. You know what I mean? Like it'll still
Yeah.
be like minorities, whatever. But I don't know. But like if we did have like a some kind of like collective or something where it's like go here and then like look through all these authors and genres and like pick out something that you like. I feel like that is like kind of painting a target on some people's backs. You know what I mean? Like it would be like very easy for like the left to find it and then just go name by name and like try to get these people like taken down or whatever.
And that, I think, does bring up a good point. If you want to have it deconsolidated and very loose in smaller pockets, then you cannot expect a humongous unification that's going to be big enough to rival it. Like putting woke aside, putting conservatism aside, just look at the world today with the internet. In the old days, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, if you want to go back even the 1910s, even as far back as that, every decade had a cultural movement. It could be jazz, big band, rock and roll, disco, you name it. And there are movies that went along with like 70s with lots of these very darker period pieces and westerns into the 80s. 80s had their action movies, 90s had their, experimental science fiction flicks and so on. But that's because you had everyone in the same unified pocket. With the internet now, you don't have that anymore. If you don't want to be part of that mainstream culture, you can opt in to something. You can opt into something else. You can opt out, and as a result, it's now decentralized. And that's why you're never. That's why none of anything except for maybe the MCU has really been as big or as unifying as it has been in the decades past. So if you're expecting that, and that's with the mainstream culture as a factor, imagine what you're trying to do in the underground, and you're trying to keep things separate. If you want to keep it small scale, that's fine, but you cannot expect Marvel numbers if you want to intend to keep it small scale.
You know what I'm thinking now though? is, okay, what if we've been thinking about this the wrong way? In the sense that, okay, this is a culture war, right? And that's what people call it. So in a culture war, well, in normal war, like the one of the biggest determining factors is size, right? Like if China was to fight the United States, like just due to our DEI policies, but one of the big factors is they have a larger amount of people, and even if we were like more skilled, maybe 5 to 1, they'd still beat us just due to sheer numbers. I'm wondering if that's true now for like the culture war, where what if what if the solution to winning the culture war isn't making better comics, but we just have to outbreed the leftists and then wait for them to like die of cat lady shit where they don't have kids, and then the only entertainment left will be right wing entertainment, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think like long term, like we definitely just like dominate culturally and whatever. But in terms of, like who's more to blame, like I don't know. I I think I kind of want to try some stuff eventually. Like I don't know, Shimo, if like you're more into like anime manga stuff, but like are visual novels like still a thing? Are those like still popular
Visual
or
novels
like
are
those sell
still
well?
popular, because there's different kinds of them. Like if you've played Fire Emblem, it's a tactical turn-based RPG, but there's still
Yeah.
lots of visual novel elements in between those fights. So you can recruit new people, you can lose people, you can date some of them and romance, but it still affects gameplay who you can pull it into your team and not. You can think of it more like Mass Effect in that regard, but if you had kind of walls of text as opposed to top tier voice acting, even though Fire Emblem has both. So
Okay.
on their
Uh,
own, they typically just be like dating sims, or more things like Fate, where it's like a choose your own adventure book, but just in a video game format. But as a whole genre, it's not as popular because they've taken that element and integrated it into other games.
I think the most popular uh yen right now is like I don't know if it's the most popular, but the one that just released is like the Atlas One Metaphor Refantasio or whatever. I think I don't know how big that's gonna be. Like the other stuff, I guess, is like I don't know if you ever heard of this Waipu Media, but Doki Doki Literature Club.
Oh yeah, that was
It's
an
I
American made
I
one.
have yeah, I've heard of that. I haven't
yeah,
played it. I don't know. I don't really have an interest.
It's a fun one. It's a little bit meta at points, kind of poking fun at the tropes, and like if you're on there's one part of the game where your game starts messing up, and if you're on PC,
Yeah, or
yeah, you have to actually go into your actual real game files and delete the file it created to make the game run again, because actually is affecting the game internally.
I think it's viable. Yeah,
but yeah, like I know like one, I mean this was like years ago, but like Zero Escape, 999, and then stuff like that where it's like you have voice acting, you have art, but these games are mostly just kind of choose your own adventure stories, like different paths and choices. And if you just had good writing and music and voice acting and art, just like in comparison to like your bigger budget games or your movies, it's like this middle ground you could try to reach where it's like I feel like right-wing indie book probably not a huge audience just overall, but like right-wing visual novel I think could like reach a lot more people, or like it has a bigger pull, I guess. And then like the Fire Emblem stuff, I don't know how hard it would be to like do a grid-based tactical system thing, but I guess that's I don't know,
I don't
like
think it would be too
relatively
hard,
doable. Okay.
depending on how experienced you are, because the game goes on a rock paper scissors kind of logic as opposed to here are like 17 jillion stats you got to remember. So there's that.
I think all game development is hard, especially when you start putting in game mechanics like that. Like I know there was popular hentai game Subverse. I don't know if you know. Like I think it took like forever, and they just had like some kind of grid based gameplay to do that kind of shit. So it takes a while. I guess especially if you're doing like 3D assets. I don't know if you could do like I guess you could do like 2D like the RPG Maker kind of stuff, but Um, I think you're actually kind of genius, Webumi. I think the visual novel idea actually does work because the most you need is just text and then character portraits, right? And then you're pretty much done. Uh, I think that would work if like the gameplay is like kept to a minimum. That way you don't have a lot of like QA testing or whatever.
Yeah, that's for
But
best.
Mhm.
Also, your engine, be careful with that. Great example would
if
be
you're
like,
on the Toad engine, you're fucked for life.
no, I'm just saying because there's a game called Kachiwa Shoujo. I think I remember this from like the early 2000s. It was literally a dating
Is
sim,
that the 4chan one?
the 4chan one. Yeah, so it was made for I think like
Okay.
66 people or something like that. But yeah, they did it, and it was done in an engine called Rant, which is like a very basic one, very basic those kind of visual novel games. But if you aren't clean with the coding, it can get very bulky very fast. Trust me, I've tried after playing that game. But yeah, it can be done, and that was all done by a small indie team on 4chan. I mean, so it's possible. It's still free to play if
I
you haven't
think
tried it out already, in case you want to get your feet wet. But the longer the game goes, the more emotional and in depth the game does get, as opposed to just
I
being
think
sex like most of them on Steam or shit like that.
I think the biggest problem is the distribution center. Because on PC, like the biggest distribution center is Steam. And I don't know if you guys remember, but Jesus Strikes Back, whatever. Jesus Strikes Back, Revengeance, whatever it's called. It got banned off of Steam, right? So you probably have to, make a game if you're distributing it through Steam that's like edgy, but not really that edgy. Because if you were making something really edgy again, you'd run into a distribution problem.
Nah,
Like I don't know
there's
how
a way
you.
around it. There's a way
Right.
around it. Do you ever heard of a game called Honey Pop?
Yeah.
Okay, because Honey Pop is censored on the Steam version, but if you want the full uncensored version, you have to go to their website, the developer's website, and they get the patch.
Yeah.
So you can just have a
Yo. Okay.
so you could put a censored
So
version
we
on
make
Steam and then have the patch to decensor the game on your own website.
it depends though, because like if you have a game, right? Can we patch in racism? Is that a thing?
If
Or
you have
do
it like as a skin as
oh
a dialogue choice, then theoretically you could.
Well, I don't know, like necessarily to be like really effective. If it, like it should like have our values and that type of thing, but I don't think it has to go like super far. Like it just like white people like being white and like happy doing whatever like is enough to like anger leftists. And like if they were I guess like theoretically, like if they were intelligent, they would just ignore it and not give it any attention. But the dumb
yeah.
thing would be like, hey, this visual novel that's selling well, it doesn't have any minority characters, blah blah blah, and they would write an article and then like give it more attention, and then you can just kind of ignore it or whatever. It's like, hey, that doesn't fit in with like the historical accuracy of the setting, and like your average normie will just like that, and you don't really have to care about what some leftist who wasn't going to buy it thinks.
This is so hard for me though, because I like maybe this is just me, and I can totally see your point, but I find it hard to relate to stuff that's like just good. Like what does that even mean to make? You know, I guess it's just like Witcher, but the story's okay in a sense. Uh, I I guess Common America or whatever. I haven't read Common America, but something like along those lines. But maybe not anime girls, but just white guys fighting things. You know, um, it's just that like because every story has like the villain and like who is the villain, who are we underpinning, like what is truly evil, right? And yeah, I feel like to fight evil, we would have to put certain things, but I guess demons just do demons or whatever, a visual novel with demons. But y- y- I guess you could see like problem with that is that it starts to sound generic. Oh, we just have a white guy in a white family,
Yeah.
and he's fighting a dragon. It's like that sounds okay. I mean, yeah, but I don't know how much that can like hook onto something.
It could be as a
Right.
joke. You could do it like Scott Pilgrim tier kind of guy fighting medieval dragons. Shit.
I guess,
Uh,
yeah.
Yeah, I think I see what you're saying with like I don't really watch it, but like the isekai stuff, and it's like you're in a new world, you're fighting the Demon King, and it's always like the fucking Demon King, like every time, and it
Yeah,
just seems like all blend into each other. I think you could get away with like being more like honed in. These are our enemies.
yeah,
And then it's like I think like in comparison, like it would be relatively easy to like host a game, like a visual novel on a website, and people like download it from there. Like it wouldn't be like as taxing as opposed to like here's your like whatever amount of gigs, like super asset new game. And it's like even if it was kicked off platforms, but like there were people that were interested in it, I think you just kind of offered for free, right? Or
yeah.
something like Gumroad. I think like they accept like more kind of dissident or like people more on the edge that like aren't on Patreon or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it's like thinking of a different, like, is there a different angle that we can attack from our side that wouldn't get us kicked off in a sense, like uh I guess yeah, because it is true that like just having the white family just already pisses people off enough, right? It's just yeah, I don't know
You
if there's
could
like another.
probably or you could probably make a game where you go around like shooting non-whites as long as they're transphobic non-whites. That would be totally cool. That would be like 10 out of
Yeah,
10
Oh lordy.
IGN
that is meta. That is pretty funny.
because they're at the top of the pyramid now. So
Yeah, we have to kill what is it like Hotep Jesus or whatever. We gotta kill all the black allies that are homophobic.
they're trying to stop some like drag queen story time hour, and you have to like defeat them within a certain amount of time or whatever. Like take out these protesters.
Yeah, that is pretty meta. Like people wouldn't know what to do with that, I guess. They're like, we're just stopping. Yeah. Oh, huh. I, I don't know if people would get it though. Like, 'cause it would. I guess it would be like you're a policeman and the guy is shooting at a trans parade and he's black, and you got to stop him. But like, I don't know if people get the message with that. That would just be because in another way, that would just be like it feels like propaganda, right? It would just feel like I guess it is propaganda for you doing much universities, but that's meta. That's twisted. I don't know. Kind of crazy. I guess Deus Ex is next.
Yeah, we could do Deus
You
Ex
want to
next.
roll it
Yeah.
out, Shimo, or
I think White Pill can go. I think he has more he wants to say than I do.
all right, yeah, because you want to talk with us about Deus Ex. What should we know about Deus Ex White Pill Media?
Oh, jeez. Uh, I guess if people haven't played it, recently did Deus Ex, and it is an old game. Came out in 2000. The graphics are not great. The lighting is not great. The voice acting is not great, but it's a lot of fun. It touches on some conspiracies and stuff that we would like. There are some like rather small elements, but they are there where it's like left leaning kind of social things. But it's not like too much to where it spoils everything, where it's like, I would say, don't play it because it has like this thing and that thing. No, it's still definitely worth playing. Um, what else to say? Like, I guess in comparison, like, look, I don't really play old games. I'm kind of starting to now, but this is a game that's 24 years old, and it looks like crap, right? Compared to modern games, but like graphics don't mean shit really. Like there's a ton of people, like this is one of the most highly rated games, and it looks the way it does, and it looks rather poor mostly. But we can definitely like do things with worse graphics or lower graphics, as long as like we have the story right. We had the game is fun, like that's ultimately like what matters. I think it was like a 30-person development team for the first game, which is that's a lot of people, right? That's like millions of dollars, probably, right? in terms of today's money, like millions of dollars to get it out there. I don't know. I would assume in like the 24 years since then and now, we have like better tools. So you could probably make a comparable game with a smaller amount of people for less money. But I think like, yeah, in terms of like people that just want like all the graphics and they want to like look as good as like the games the left is making, there's still like a good chunk of people that would engage with the game where like the graphics aren't great or they're retro, as long as like it's fun, it has a good story, it has a good writing. Invisible War, the sequel, is not fun. It doesn't have good writing or anything like that. But yeah, I don't really want to spoil it or like the first game, but it's like good, like gritty cyberpunk. It has like an interesting world, and it's like it does a lot of things well. Where it's like I think we could like learn stuff from it. Where it's like some of this maybe looks simple or dated, but it's valuable. Like playing like games coming out like right now that have millions of dollars in their budget and would require like these huge studios to produce probably isn't like useful for us to like study or engage with, just because they're not feasible for us to try like learn from. Or I don't know, maybe we could like gain something, but I think like we can gain more from these smaller, ambitious projects from back then, I would say.
Yeah, I think well, first of all, I think Deus Ex is one of those interesting franchises where at the beginning, it's very conspiratorial and ominously conspiratorial where like kind of I forget if it was like Eat the Bugs. They took the Twin Towers out before the Twin Towers were supposed to take out like crazy shit. But it feels like as it got along, the same thing that happened to Joker is what happened to Deus Ex. They became self-aware, and then by mankind divided, it was Og's Lives Matter. So it's just spoilers. I guess if you're going to play Mankind Divided, but
No, no,
that's
no. I think it's like Human Revolution, then Mankind Divided, but like the first
yeah.
hour of Human Revolution, it's like I've just walked around like the main building. I want to say like 70-80% of the people that work here are not white. Uh, and yeah, it does seem like you're gonna have like your conservative, like they hate Augs thing that they're building and they're intolerant. Where it's like in the first game, like which the Human Revolution and Mankind ones are like prequels to the first one, but like you have these augmented people, but they look like really fucked up. They look like monsters, and like they don't like blend into society. And like you can ask like, okay, like just take a person and then like remove their eyes, their arms, their brains, put in computers, and like what do you have then? It's not comparable to like an actual person. And in Invisible War, there's something like this little quest thing of like augmented kids, like kids that are going to be like nanotech. And Invisible War was like 20 years after the first game, but like there's no nuance. No one in the game questions like, is it like morally right to like augment my child, to like permanently kind of alter them or whatever. It just kind of seems like augmentation is like this fun, quirky thing, and maybe that's how it is in like Revolution and Mankind, where it's just like, yeah, there's no drawbacks. Where in the first game, like you can see the drawbacks, like they're right there, kind of. You're really just stripping your humanity away.
You got any thoughts on Deus Ex, Shimo?
Well, if you're gonna try to run the game on modern tech, it can be tricky because it is very finicky son of a bitch. I mean, especially if you try to put the graphics mod to make the game look a lot better. So if it's giving you trouble, you can play a more streamlined version of it by getting the ROM of the PS2 version, which surprisingly supported keyboard and mouse when it came out, like 2 years after the original. But all in all, Deus Ex, it's a pretty fun game, but it does have multiple endings, so you can get some replay value out of that. Your choices do matter. And one thing I want to warn you guys is that it's an old school game where action RPGs actually remember the RPG element. So if your shooting augment is not the best, doesn't matter how close you are, you can still fucking miss and the shots won't connect. So you have to upgrade the everything. It's not like Fallout where you have no classes but stats, and then you can kind of brute force your way out of shit stats. You cannot do that in Deus Ex. You have to actually keep your stats into account. It's also a game that's pretty damn big. At least it's a smaller game, at least by today's standards, but it's a very dense game where everything's very close by, nearby, so the city really feels alive. It popularized the immersive sim genre, if not started it outright, and it's one of the first cases of the first Unreal Engine being used for a non-shooting game, and it still holds up pretty damn well. It's where Unreal really got its foot in the door. Well, you
Got
should.
any thoughts on the story?
What, the story?
Or
Oh, some of the
yeah,
conspiratorial stuff is kind of played for laughs. It's one of the cases where if you don't know too much, sometimes it's played for laughs. But then when you look back on it, with you get later knowledge unlocked, it makes you really kind of re-question your perspective on things. Because I'm trying not to give too much away for those who want to play it. Like the whole thing about like one, for example, is a joke where it's like I want an orange. I know, yeah, I want a lemon from the vending machine. It gave me an orange thing, and it turns out later there actually is like traces of chemical like in the orange drinks. And you're like, oh, that guy being silly wasn't being silly. It's like they're actually trying to kill the motherfucker. Little things like
Hmm.
that.
yeah.
Or you can also like, if you want to, you can just like mess with the HR person in the building. That's actually pretty funny. We can also tase kids with a cattle prod, so there's also that too.
In terms of old games that we could definitely aim to do Deus Ex, but it's just it's really hard to convince, I think, people to is it hard to convince people to play like a retro game if it's like really good? Because like I feel like what defines good a lot of times is like being cutting edge, right? So
Yeah, it has to be cutting edge
it
back then, but then still magically hold up. But there has to be improvement since then. It's a fucking paradox. It's annoying, and and
yeah,
and
like
I
I just don't think people would like want to go back to like maybe they would like Deus. Most people, as in normies, casuals, they wouldn't want to play Deus Ex One's gameplay over like Mankind Divided's, right? And it's kind of like the same way with the if we were to make our own like Deus Ex game, like we would have to make sure that the one thing that we have that is cutting edge is the narrative, because that's the only thing we could make cutting edge. Um, because the gameplay, the graphics, I don't think we could make it cutting edge.
Yeah,
It
we
would,
just don't have the money.
yeah, but that's also part of why I
yeah,
mentioned why the game is very finicky to get running. Because I had a friend who was very excited to play it. He gets frustrated very easily. Deus Ex did not want to run on his Windows 7 computer. He gave the fuck up. He just went straight to the next one that would run, and that was Mankind Divided.
I actually like, or I had the original like run fine, really no issues. I think maybe it crashed once, but Invisible War, that one ran like kind of poorly. Um, but I
damn
think
dog
like
shit game and dog shit exe.
yeah,
What are you doing, bro? I'm
but
sorry, I cut you off.
sorry, but for me, like I definitely like was extremely like hesitant to like play older games, but it's just like really just looking at everything kind of coming out, and I really just don't have an interest in it. So it's like I kind of had to force myself to engage, and I'm like I'm glad I really did with Deus Ex, but it's kind of like with books as well, like these indie books. Part of it is just like I want to like read books by like people of like similar values and that type of thing, but also just the current market, if it's like just Brandon Sanderson crap or like just who's not like a leftist but just other like leftist crap, like what option do you have? It's either like don't read or like read indie stuff or read older stuff. So
Isn't Brandon Sanderson like pro gay now or something? Like there's like
I
gay
think he
banners.
might be, but like in the Mistborn stuff, it's just like it's just kind of like Mormon stuff, and it's like it's fine, but it's also like he's just not a very good writer, and he's not like a right wing guy. But I think yeah, I think we could like an audience would be there, just with like yeah, disenfranchised, sensitive young men looking to play a game, and as long as it was fun and like had a really great narrative, I think people would engage with it.
Yeah. Like, you know what? Because it is true. Because thinking about it, like maybe I need like I shouldn't say but like maybe the standard really is low. Maybe we don't need to like do all this right wing fucking twist ourselves into a pretzel. Maybe the right wing really is just I want to play Call of Duty, and if we just make Call of Duty with straight guys and then call it fire fire gun game, and you shoot uh you know other I don't know, like we do World War II again. Oh, we shoot the Nazis, but it's like all white guys, and the white guy's like a main straight white hero. Like people would be chill with that, and we cash the check, and you just stop thinking about it. Like because that would sell on Steam, right? We killed the Nazis, whatever. Straight white guy, it's cool. Everybody's cool, and
Or
yeah,
or we do like the you're the Nazis and you win World War II Call of Duty game, and we just say like it's ironic. Just like
it's
we just tell
ironic.
games journalists we're being ironic. That's it. We don't go
Yo,
any
that
further than that.
that would be actually really cool if we had like the you play it from the Nazi. Yeah, and it's ironic. Wolfenstein, but like reversed.
Hmm.
You're not gonna sell any games in Germany. That's for fucking sure.
Damn.
It's
Nah,
true.
bro, You what you gotta do? You gotta go to World War I, and you gotta start the Yugoslavia wars then and there. That's what you gotta do. Play as the Serbians. Play as the Croatians.
I don't know what happens there. It's just like the memes, right? Like the fucking flashback memes, like the dog and everything's like
I know a little bit about it, but Yugoslavia was like six countries, like ethnic groups, all kind of forced together into one country. And the second that like communism ends, what naturally happens, and it just becomes like a shit show of people breaking off. It's like Serbians, Macedonians, Bosnians, Croatians. Uh, is Montenegro a part of it? I don't know, but like, yeah, it's just a lot of different ethnic groups, and what happens when you don't have like a strong man forcing them together.
we should totally like now that I think about it, like what if we made like Call of Duty again, but it's like Israel versus Palestine, and you can pick either route. Either route is 100% viable. But
Are you gonna add
you
Lebanon
know,
DLC, bro?
yeah, like we could do that. Like just maybe like yeah, finding ways to be like politically neutral and just thread the needle. This is really yeah, just really hard because I guess other people got to make that shit because I just can't do that stuff. It's just too boring for me. But I think definitely other people, because I guess other people are more normal than me. They could definitely make the neutral game where you just pick, hey guys, you can join Hezbollah or something, and the IDF just happens to be on the other side. This is just cultural. No big deal. It's just something that happened.
I mean, leftists could support it. Like, if you would make
Yeah.
like Trump sending money to the IDF, and you have to like take out Trump or something.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But like it is true. Like right, like you know, Trump brings energy, right? So if you have him in a campaign, like it just brings energy. I mean, not necessarily the most best, like not my beliefs 100%, but it is energy to our side where the villain then becomes Trump. He's the big guy. Like I guess it does, like in a Joker 2 sense, like give us energy because I don't know who you would put like on the IDF campaign. You what shoot Bin Laden's third grandchild or something. I don't even know who runs that shit. Some dude.
Hmm.
Uh, all the Saudi Arabian people who hire the white escorts. You know, we have to stop white women being trafficked in Saudi Arabia. And yeah, I don't know. I guess it's not trafficking; it's consensual. I'm sorry. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I really have anything else to say about like Deus Ex, but um, I think we
Play
can
the
skip
game.
on the graphics. Like I think, yeah, that's not like essential. But some people like yeah, they just wouldn't be willing to engage with it just because like it looks older. Like there, I assume there's like people like or younger guys that like watch movies and like no, that movie's too old. But I think maybe older movies do better just because you don't have to like play around with it. You're not like spending a lot of hours like looking at these like older graphics. Where the movie's just 2 hours and you're done.
Yeah, well, the graphics, yeah, well, you can think that's a natural form of gatekeeping, for better or for worse. But the thing is, even if you do like have good graphics, one thing you got to remember is you got to remember your marketing and your networking. A lot of people just kind of foolishly assume that the world runs on a meritocracy, and sadly, it doesn't. You have to know how to market your shit. You know have to know how to sell your shit. Razor Fist, for Ghost of the Badlands, he even mentioned that, but he was on different podcasts marketing his book and all that. You know, some people from Iron Age, people from Comicsgate, and he sold and made a good amount of money on that because he went around and he networked. Whether he generally likes those people, I'm not quite sure. But then again, you know, it's the internet. You don't really know who is who until the drama starts up. And then we have Jacob Calto, you know, from his infantry. He says, print off enough for a storefront post campaign or make a print on demand version like Amazon. FOMO and scarcity, while motivating the movement, kills any relevance your comic may have afterwards. And that was a big thing that really fucked over comics in the 90s, you know? Well, assuming your crowdfunding campaign isn't completely terrible either.
Yeah. So I think the thing is like, why are conservatives so bad at art? And I guess the razor fist thing was like they're bad at marketing and networking, and the difference is like leftists have the apparatus, and we don't, so we're fucked essentially.
I don't think we're like bad at art. Like if we look at like the popular like stuff, the stuff that's like kind of stood the test of time, like where it's like Lord of the Rings, Conan, whatever, like 90% of like the really good stuff is going to be like straight white guy, pretty normal, you know, like it the idea where it's like it's all the left, it's like probably, you know what I mean? Like it's probably a lot of like, I don't know, leftists dominating universities and that type of thing. Of course, they're going to produce more artists, and like the Indians at Google hire Indians. A leftist that does movies is not going to hire a right wing guy. Like there's very few right wing guys in movies, but if they're there, they're probably really, really good at their jobs, and they're also like grandfathered in. There's not like anyone our age or like anywhere close that's like getting hired in Hollywood that like shares like our values or like even just like mild mannered conservative. Probably you're not going to do well in that type of environment just because you're like outnumbered. And for like marketing, yeah, I can see that like being an issue. I don't have anything on marketing, sorry.
It's fine, it's fine. But remember, for marketing, sometimes it's just using it. Keep like my channel like didn't get a lot of views, but when I started putting right hashtags on Twitter, I started to get more views. Now I get like 30 something views a video. It's not much, but it's better than what like two, three, four, 5 views. So sometimes marketing can be a simple hashtag. You can be writing movements when they occur naturally, and not just writing every movement. Sometimes it's knowing what cover art sells, knowing what aspect of your story to sell. Sometimes it's also knowing where to market it, because marketing on Twitter, for example, is a different ballgame than marketing up on YouTube. Some people pay for ad exposure and to be boosted in the algorithm, and other people, just like Razor and Jacob Calta, will go to other podcasts repeatedly until they make enough of a mark, and then people will just trust their product. There's many ways to market it. It doesn't always have to be throwing money at an ad agency. So just because your
I think
book is not up on
marketing,
billboards doesn't mean you're not doing it right.
I think marketing obviously helps, but I would just disagree with this. I'm gonna bring the hottest take, I guess. I think conservatives are bad at art. It is true. Like maybe this is just my taste, my opinion, but they are so resistant to new ideas or even pushing the line. Like for my stuff, where it's too political or something like that, where they just don't. They're like conservative. It's like the ideology, right? It's conservative. Like they're not going anywhere, which is why like I kind of want to change our mindset to like being more progressive, not necessarily like progressive as a leftist, but as in the actual definition of like moving forward. Um, and I don't know what it is. Like, is it just like their genetics or their ideology that like stops them from being creative? And yeah, it's just like I see a lot of times um, people like do a lot of right wingers even know about stone toss or stuff like that. I don't know, man. Like they don't seem to engage with it a lot, and they just kind of they look at a Marvel movie or something. It's just they don't usually take the offbeat roads or offbeat paths to like be creative in a sense. And I think that shows in a lot of the art that's coming out. I mean, I know there's like good stuff like I guess on our side I haven't read a lot, but there's like I guess the whole right scene with like Nutcracker or whatever, which seems to be making like cool stuff and uh but it's like the general sentiment. Like when you talk to a normie conservative dude, he's like, I'm watching a Marvel film. Like they don't and that's what happens in the Iron Ages. We just have a bunch of fans that were like, I like Marvel films. I'm gonna make my own Marvel film. And it's
Hmm.
not an interesting idea that has been like they didn't like, you get what I'm saying.
Uh, yeah, I understand what you're saying. I will push back a little. I don't know how like right wing this guy is. I think he's at least like just a conservative, like he voted for Trump. But I don't know if he was like the first to do it. But those like I never played them, but like the Five Nights at Freddy's games, like that's like a conservative guy who made them. It's like
Yeah,
you in like a booth or whatever, and then like you check cameras for like the monsters and stuff. Like that spawned a lot from it's like if he was like the first guy or like the guy that like made it popular, that genre of game, like there's a conservative guy like going off the beaten path. And in terms of like
true.
what the left is doing, I don't see like in terms of like video games or like movies, I don't see the left doing a lot of like really impressive stuff right now either. I don't think the right wing is necessarily too, but like reheating old properties but just making everything like gay and black now, that's not like incredibly creative or like thought provoking from them.
Cawthon was a very, well, it still is a very Christian man. He would make Christian kids games, but got lots of complaints from people that they were just creepy and unsettling. And he went down a downward spiral that basically was if Five Nights at Freddy's did not take off, he was pulling the trigger. I'm not sugarcoating it. He was going to go down that path, and it took off because he took what people complain about his games, stiff, robotic, animatronic looking, unsettling, and just he ran with what he had, and it became this biggest core pop culture phenomenon in the past 15 years. I'd say more than The Conjuring even. And he did fucking
Yeah, that's
great. Well, at
true.
least before he got booted out of his own company, but still he had a
Oh, he
damn good
did?
run. Yeah, they took over when they started getting bigger. Like it was after Pizza Simulator, which I think was Five Nights at Freddy's 7. But after that, yeah, that's when he came out openly for Trump and got kicked out. But yeah, started making crappy mobile app games, not so good kids Christian games, and that's him now. The king of the maker of Five Nights at Freddy's. He's got money. He can retire. He doesn't have to spend a day in his life working anymore if he doesn't want to.
Yeah, I think you're right. There are like a lot of mainstream conservatives. Yeah, Friday Nights at Freddy. I didn't think of that one. Like there are a bunch that
Yeah, but
that do
like
push the line.
if we do have like the Five Nights at Freddy's guy, or like apparently like Notch or whatever is like maybe not at least openly a leftist, but like I don't know. I'm not saying like give me the money, but like I feel like everyone on this side of things kind of understands how dire things are. So they're like, if someone did make it rich, like ideally they wouldn't just like go full bunker on everyone and like just make a mansion underground, but would like fund their own stuff, but just like promote other things just to yeah, like actually try to build something like a counter, I guess.
Like I think for a long time you may be correct in the sense that like right wing people are very independent. You know, okay, it was like self-individual, like the whole individual versus collective was kind of like a right wing thing, and like I'm not here to control. I really don't care if like Notch would give me money or something, but like if instead of like buying a mansion, he just gave like right wing people a lot of money, like yeah, it would help. Like but maybe it's like the sense of individualism, right? Like it just
Hmm.
makes you think like why hasn't I guess Kanye's hooked up with like a couple of people, but like there's like right wing artists, right? Like why doesn't he collab with like Negative XP or Tom McDonald or something? And you know, I feel like there's a lot of like people that could do a lot more collabing together or something. At least in the arts, people who have a lot of money, like like Notch gives the Great Rebellion guys a couple more billions or whatever. But you
Yeah,
can't you can't beg people for their money, so
right. Like you can't beg and like I don't know. You shouldn't like beg, but
yeah, you
just
should.
like
It's gay.
needing kind of a more collective mindset where it's like, okay, maybe we don't agree on everything, but like we're all right wing. Like we have like enough of like a shared worldview where it's like, I know it's important to like support yourself, like take care of yourself, your family, but like, yeah, or it's like, I don't know. I don't really see like that much of a political solution really, but like, I think culturally we can still like do a lot of good, and like using culture we can like win over more people to our side by just getting them to engage with stuff we'll create, just like an understanding, tide comes in raises all boats type of deal.
Yeah, yeah, man. It's hard though. Yeah, it is definitely hard, but gotta make that money. Okay, so like someone has to drain all their savings into the lotto and hope that it's not rigged, and then we win the Powerball. Everybody wins. We all get money. Uh, yeah, perfect plan. No rules.
I like it.
Let's you want to go down a list of questions, I guess.
All right,
Let me
all right.
see.
8 of them, but they probably bleed into one another. Okay, number one, the
Yeah,
criticism. Anyway, it's kind of pointless. I think people defend the woke shit. So you just make stuff. Somebody will like it if it exists, which in some ways is enough. Creation is 1,000 times more useful than criticism. That's the first one,
yeah.
right?
So I don't know if there's much thought to this, but um, I've seen people like whenever like you talk to someone, right? In in critique or whatever, you're like, the Last Jedi sucks because X, Y, and Z or something, and you're totally correct because your opinions are always correct. Some dumb fuck is always going to be like, well, it's not that woke. Uh, sh- he is good and he's fighting evil, so therefore it's not woke. There's always like you can convince no one of anything, and people are just so dumb. And like I see on our side, we critique a lot of stuff. Oh, this is bad. This is bad. Does it really like? Does it matter? Because even if you critique it, there's always going to be that one guy that's like, no, this is the greatest thing ever. And so I feel like critiquing is kind of pointless. And it's not like you have to get everybody to like your stuff, but it's kind of pointless. Like if you make just more stuff, someone will like it, and I think critique is kind of overrated. But yeah,
I guess just like if we just have a bunch of people just critiquing whatever the left comes out with, it's not like super useful. Like if we just have a bunch of guys talking about, was it Dustborn or whatever, like
Yeah,
okay, like after the first video on Dustborn, we don't like really need any other discussion, and maybe even the first video isn't great because we're just giving attention to something that's like outside of our control. Where it's like if we had like however many people making those videos like working on their own stuff or like promoting other people's stuff, like that's a lot more useful, or just yeah, better use of energy, I guess.
The other thing with critique, and this is not unconducive to woke or anything, it's just generally with the internet. Angry internet reviewers who just complain about everything just tend to get more traction than people who actually provide solutions. So if someone, for example, was to make a good version of Dustborn or Concord, just as an example, they would get far less views than whatever angry YouTuber of the week just ranting and raving and tearing it down with all the fucks and shits like angry video game nerd. So that's kind of the
and like
problem
the
now.
other,
It feels like it's criticism just for criticism's sake and not for any other main purpose, unless you're just rage baiting. In that case, that's your paycheck.
that's true too, because like if you think about your favorite thing, like even I think in the best solutions, 50% of the fan base hates it, or like your favorite thing ever, like a good amount of people actually do hate your favorite thing, and they'll like, this is bad, you know. So criticism can, the more like I create stuff, the less useful criticism seems. I'm not saying that like you're always right, but a lot of criticisms, a lot of the time, don't apply, or they're not they're not thinking in your headspace or whatever. Like a lot of the suggestions that they give are just like and we just kill it. Like you know, like when those videos or stuff of like how I would fix X or Y, and at least to the viewer, like them fixing it makes it worse. At least to me, because I always feel like the original creator has the sauce in a sense, you know, like it's their vision, and I guess critiquing it sometimes people are right, but more than often not, you're better off just listening to your gut, I think.
I mean, like, yeah, you whatever you're creating have like the vision in your head that none of the people like consuming it have. You can't just like bend to your audience's whims and then like you, you have to create the thing that you want to create. Like maybe some of the criticism can be good. Like I would say if you're less experienced or you created less, and it's like, hey, your dialogue is like really bad or were like just stilted or just kind of wooden or like I don't know. Some critiques to like form in that I think can be useful. But once you kind of like know what you're doing or like you have a good grasp of like how you create, then yeah, the people that don't like it, it's probably just not for them. And then the people that like it, they enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
way to do it. Finding out what your work ethic is, and work ethic is consistent for that duration of time. A lot of people think, oh, I can make one drawing. It's like doing one drawing with a lot of detail is very different than doing a comic, especially if you're doing it weekly, monthly, or the same level of detail for all 40 pages. Very easy to get burned out. They don't plan, they don't pace themselves, and that's why a lot of these comics, as cool as they are, don't come out on time.
you just gotta you just gotta work it, man. And
So we'll do that. So let's pretend you got the work ethic down and you got the criticism, the critiques, you took that and you learned. Point number two, we'll all agree that big deities will not save your IP. It's usually more about committing to an idea all the way. If an artist doesn't go all the way with things to censoring from societal woke pressure, it makes the work worse. Usually means that there's those things like female superheroes in franchises cannot look heroic. Side effect of the whole problem, but not the cause. Right wingers need to actually commit to their ideas more. I'm gonna use what's it called? That one that came out a while ago, Stellar Blade. Stellar Blade came out. Everyone was praising it for keeping the booty and stuff. But then the moment that game made a bunch of money, they're making a part two now. They took in investors. What do you think's gonna happen to part two? What do you think's gonna happen?
yeah, I mean, I will just say this, Solar Blade, like to put to White Pillmilia's point, I didn't think it was that terribly interesting.
You won't last five
Um,
minutes playing this game.
yeah, like
Jesus.
it, it, I feel like a lot of times, people get it wrong. They're like, we need sexy this or whatever, but committing to the idea is definitely like the thing that needs to happen. And yeah, we're just, it's what it says. We're just censoring ourselves, I feel, and uh, I said, what we here? Sorry, my head got retarded. You have anything to say about that on the point in general?
uh, yeah, like I guess like censoring sexiness or like sexiness isn't like enough or
Well, it's just that it's not one of it's not one of these things that's gonna save the IP. It's not
Mhm.
like as you're like the straight white guy or the sexiness necessarily that makes something unique. Or you can't just throw a white guy or sexy tits and like your idea has to be good and it has to like
I don't think a
go
white
all the
guy
way.
with sexy tits is a good idea, bro.
That's a good point. Like I
That's a
think the
good
thing
point.
was like superhero franchises can't look heroic anymore, right? Because of the size of the so it's not necessarily the tits. And so when you make like an idea, it has to be the fullest version of that idea. And what woke does is that woke's like, no, you can't have. If we were making a cop simulator, you can't have the black person commit crime because
Mhm.
that would be too woke, or no, sorry, that would be too uh, what is it? Miss.
Real. True.
Yeah, too true. And so people are like, oh yeah, that's right. So that's like every villain in every single movie or video game now is a white guy. It doesn't matter what it is. Like it's always, oh, the white guy's the villain. There you go. And it's
Yeah,
just
it
like
makes no sense to make a
it.
game where you play like an outlaw vigilante, and then it's like, oh, you can steal an entire train, but you can't punch this one character because of their background. It's like, then what's the point of playing the villain? Just say what you want about that. Just pick up hatred. You can kill anybody and everybody in that fucking game. Kill them for health and
Yeah,
shit. I mean, it's an edgy game for the sake of being fucking edgy. There's no substance. It's brain rot. Unironically, hatred.
I think it's just like the inability of like because like back in the day, like games like DOA and stuff, they weren't that popular. Like sexy tits didn't save it. Like people are just shouting about it now because they can't have it. But
Mhm.
It's
back in the day, you know,
yeah, but
like it was just Call of Duty. You just shot people.
because DOA was like MK, where it had a lot of emphasis in marketing in the story. But in Japan, it was third place to the 3D fighting space because you had to compete with Virtua Fighter, which was a champion at that time, and you also had to compete with Tekken. Good luck, anyways. And then the Doa, the fan service that you
Yeah,
think of, is really came into play with the beach games and Doa 5. So if you go back to 2, 3, 4, it's not as fan servicey as you think. And of course, the one
yeah,
game that still does it is Asia region exclusive, so you have to either import that or use a VPN.
yeah. So I think it's just the censorship that's the problem, and also like us bending to it. Where I again like you see a lot of right wing guys where they'll make a comic and it's oh the black guy's the main guy, and maybe they actually believe it, but if they're doing it because they're afraid that oh they'll see me as racist, it's like just do the thing, man. Like,
Mhm.
and you don't have to have tits, you don't
And you can
actually.
just be moderately attractive woman. I mean, you can have a attractive
Yeah,
lady, attractive man, in suits and a sundress. But if you're gonna do that, commit to it. If you're gonna be sexy like Conan Red Sonja, commit to the whole
yeah,
series. Don't magically, have them wear full body armor unless it's a disguise and it's important to the plot. And then we
I
said
think
about committing to ideas, like look at all these, like the boys, for example. Like designs are there, but you can tell it's more of a formality because superheroes have the suits as opposed to any passion to put into those designs. You can just kind of tell. You know what I mean?
I think fear is the biggest problem with right wingers. You know, I think if they can kill the fear, I think the art would get better in terms of
Yeah. And like just doing like just doing stuff to just like hey, we're not allowed to have like big tits because like leftists don't like that anymore. So here's my thing with big tits. Like, like that's not enough. That doesn't really do anything. It's just like kind of common. And I guess like if you lean really heavy into just like the sexiness aspect of it, it's either like going to be pornographic or just you're really limited in what you can do. Like you can't have like I don't know. I didn't play Stellar Blade, right? But I assume like you're somewhat limited. You can't tell your super serious dramatic story when your characters are just kind of
It's not
bouncing
that.
around the screen like
Yeah,
that,
Nah,
you know?
it's diet near automata or near automata, however you pronounce it. It's diet that in a Souls like game. So if you ain't in a Souls like or you didn't like Nier, there's nothing here to convince you.
yeah. I think what is it? For example, I think people like The Last of Us more
Cringe.
than I know, but they liked it more than DOA, right? Because of the story, because of the
Oh
characters. They
yeah,
wanted
bro.
their own.
I have people who say I
They
don't play
wanted.
first person shooters or shooters at all, but I play this one. It's like, uh, strangle them.
Yeah.
And then Doom 2016 comes out. Fuck yeah.
But we just need like our version of The Last of Us, I guess, our Citizen Kane. Just
Call it
something that like commits to ideas and yeah, just goes all the way. And I think that's like what really brings quality.
call it Home on the Range.
Home on the range is that a thing.
I think it's some like animated movie.
I know.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
saying call the
Oh,
Patriot thing Home on the Range, like Home on the Home Front or some shit. Before we jump topic, look at Stan Lee. Even he could not make Stripperella a success, and he made that shit.
yeah, that's true.
That was literally just TNA
That's
the
true. Yeah.
superhero. Point.
It's probably why my work is orthopedic. Because
No,
because
remember,
you
comedy and
obviously can't
action
tell
are the cheat codes, bro. Comedy and action are the cheat codes for almost anything.
because you can't tell a serious story when like some bitch's tits are just like flopping in your face.
Yeah.
Like it's impossible.
Yeah, I'm gonna combine 3, 4, and 5 because I think they could just go together.
Sure.
Right wing doesn't need money; you just need talent. A big budget isn't gonna save you if your artistry sucks. So you're wasting money, and then stuck culture because you have classic art like Michelangelo versus video games who have models that move and animate. Something static versus something that moves dynamically.
Yeah. So this is something that I guess will because subculture is more interesting to me. And we can go back to the other thing later. But um, I really dislike the right wing's sense of um culture and art, where they're like Michelangelo was the greatest sculptor of all time, which may be true. But if you think about it from like an artistic sense, like video games have models that move, they're realistic, and the sculptures that they use to make them are like really good. And I feel like that's true like a lot of stuff. Like people keep looking back to the past, but I feel like there's a lot of stuff technically now that's like good and we should learn from that, right? And I don't know why we keep going back to the same five people like Michelangelo and oh, like look at these. I don't know. I mean, I guess modern architecture sucks, but I'm sure there's like a modern version of it that's like really cool and that like
Mhm.
cyberpunk or whatever.
Or like going back to the well for like Tolkien, Lovecraft, Robert E. Howard, and just like
Yes,
that's it. That's just like all we fucking do. And I think some guys can write stories that like uh have like the essence of those guys and like tell it well, but I don't know. It just can't be like that forever. I can't really think of like any culture that just didn't progress. You know, like the people in like I don't know 1600 France are like very different from the people in like 1000 AD France, right? Like they didn't just keep doing the exact same things like for all that period of time. I think like yeah, I mean they would like look at their past and like take some inspiration there. Maybe some things get like revived a little bit and like reworked into something new. But just posting like Greek statues on like Twitter does not help us win the culture war. It doesn't help any right wing guy right now who's like trying to create things, you know, or like just telling people to read Lovecraft instead of like some guy that's like writing stuff and like I don't know. Even if it's like not as good, but like they're improving. Like I think we definitely have people that are like creating, and I usually think that's like okay quality. Some of it's not, but like they typically improve, you know, and like that's an active artist, someone that you could support instead of whoever these dead guys, where it's like your support for them doesn't matter. Your endorsement of them doesn't really matter. We already know like how good they are. You're not like discovering new talent for people to enjoy.
Yeah. Shimo, you got any thoughts on that?
I gotta remember this because I remember that Lovecraft, as we know it right now, only recently blew up around like 2013 to 2016. And I think part of it is also that this is, I think, a big thing is that because Lovecraft right now, anything he wrote before 1928 is public domain, which is the majority of his works.
Hmm.
So the whole technically the Cthulhu Mythos is still copyrighted. Any future installments by the estate are still copyrighted, but all the old original printed versions, not newer ones with added notes or updated translations or whatever, all the old shit that's public domain. You ever think about that being a factor? What you want to do? Spend 10, $15 on an Amazon book that may or may not be good, or just go to Project Gutenberg and download the thing for free. People are cheap asses, unfortunately. That's why webcomics are make or break on Twitter. If it's free, they'll keep giving you attention and you get ad revenue from X and all that stuff. But if they got to shell out more than $10 and they're really unsure about your quality, it becomes a big gamble. You know, it's weird. They'll spend $60 on a game, but they won't spend $1 on a mobile app. You know, like that's the kind of mindset we're dealing with here.
Mm. Do you think it would be like best if we like offered stuff for free just for people to like try out? Because like I've definitely done it. Like I pirate a shit ton, and then like if I do like something, then I typically buy it, just to, like have it physically.
Now,
But is that like a strategy?
I personally cannot condemn that strategy. That's a very fair thing, especially with higher price items. But be honest about it. Don't be the guy who's like, I'm a buy it and then you never fucking do. Because there are people who do that all the time. They're still not happy as shit. Um, because
Well,
there is a web comic called Dro Tales. It's a fantasy thing about like drows and action. It's a very well thought out fantasy thing, and it was just a web series for the longest time. And then eventually the creator moved it to a personal site customized just for that book. And then it got so popular that people were asking, "Hey, can you do a physical version?" And I think she does a print on demand version for that book. But it started off as just a Tumblr comic that became bigger, left Tumblr, its own website, and there. You can build up the scale if you need to. But I also think that goes to the idea that people want to. They want to support winners. They want to support a champion movement. Like, nobody trusted Rocky Balboa and Rocky when he started off. But once he started doing the daily training and everything, and people saw him win more fights, then he got that. It's a pain in the ass, the things you have to do to get the customer base to trust you, because it's very easy to lose that shit, unfortunately. Be your own actions are very good competition.
I think going back to the pirate thing, it's very interesting. Because even big companies aren't, I guess, big-ish. Because Lionhead Studios, like the one that was listed in the article earlier, they didn't even have legal copies of Windows before they got like bought out by Microsoft. So yeah, it's a buy before you try sort of mentality, I guess. Um, but yeah, it's just like going back to like um Tolkien. I'm so tired of it. Like when people keep referencing Tolkien, like Tolkien's great. Like it's cool, man. But like, are you serious? Like we can't think of anything past Tolkien. And like I guess the other thing that really pisses me off is like I don't know why it's like specifically like the 80s that people keep going back to. I guess maybe like Lovecraft and stuff like it's like earlier play. For instance, like apparently our music taste is just 80s metal. Like that's
Remember
it.
what I said
It
earlier?
stopped there.
Remember what I said earlier about the car accident? where we just rewind to
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
Exactly, because to
yeah.
them, especially they have very low tolerance for the woke shit. It's much more. It's easy to see in the '90s. Like, look at the Matrix. I like the Matrix. I have no problem with the Matrix. Some people say, "Oh, Lawrence Fishburne is Morpheus. That's a problem." It's not. It's woke. I tell you, like, now, Lawrence Fishburne's a great actor. He earned that fucking role. I mean, Will Smith was supposed to be the lead protagonist because it was written for him, but he couldn't take the role. I think he was busy with something else with Men in Black, I believe. I could be wrong. But so Keanu Reeves was the next runner up. Is because Will Smith turned down the role. So, but if Will Smith was the protagonist, would they be saying it's woke because Will Smith's a black guy? You see what I mean? Like, part of it with the right wing, especially with the rage bait videos now, that they just learn to knee jerk react to everything instead of looking and analyzing, is this genuinely woke or not? Some of them are so crazy that as far back as Alien 1, they'll say it's woke because Ripley's the female protagonist. Like, that's what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
in their knee jerk reaction, the 80s is the last decade they can stand on. And it's gone to a point where they're not looking at the content, they're literally looking on the date on the DVD or VHS, or if they still have those even, or the streaming service. And they're treating anything like 1992, 93 onwards as a expiration date.
Yeah, and I just think that, um, as you said, like, even I don't play a lot of new stuff or watch a lot of new movies because it is so bad. But there's just I think right wingers need to actively search for new things that are good. Like, I think the
Completely.
music industry is still like actually really good. Like, I know I talk a lot about the East beating the West, but I think in terms of music, the West is still beating the East, in my opinion. I guess I just like Jewish beats more. I don't know,
Okay,
but
I'll,
but I think music's good for
I'll,
sure.
I'll bounce off of your idea here, because here's the difference. The difference is the mindset in the rose tinted glasses. Because people say that the '80s were the greatest decade ever. No, the '80s is when the music labels went to shit. Because what happened in the again 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, they could determine the trends of what was the big music. You know what I mean? And '80s showed that the record labels could literally throw away all the artists they didn't like from the '70s, and you forgot about them. If it's not like Leonard Skinner, you know, Creative Clearwater Revival, ABBA, or like like the same 20 '70s artists over and over, you really cannot think of the '70s because they had so many '80s artists, so they didn't have to pay the artists in the '70s any fucking royalties. And so they get mad in the '90s for being, grunge, new metal, this pop punk stuff. I'm like, they're just doing to the '80s what the '80s did to the '70s. The '80s might be the best for you in terms of creative freedom or content, but it was done solely to get rid of the artists in the '70s without paying the royalties of renewing contracts. So in that case, we have to throw away the '80s because that's when Pandora's box was finally fulfilled. But they're not going to do that because they don't see it that way. Look at it only as a consumer and not from the business perspective. And about the old time thing, you know about survivors' biases, right?
Yeah, just yeah, I think I do.
Yeah. So long story short, anything that survives the test of time is the one to tell the story. Like people like to talk about, Blade Runner. People like to talk about what was it, The Thing. But both of those lost to E.T. at the box office, And those movies through time have been just finally vindicated. There's been lots of shitty '80s comedies that we don't even remember. Like Michael J. Fox is remembered more for Back to the Future than his previous movie Teen Wolf, which has nothing to do with the MTV series from the mid 2010s. But that's what I mean. Like Back to the Future is the '80s, not Teen Wolf, because Teen Wolf fell into obscurity. It's whatever, and so as a
Mm,
result, what's easier to watch? The top 10, 100 movies that were all certified classics back to back to back, or you living in real time in a drip feed, having to wait for a movie, watch it, judge it, give it a stamp of approval, and have it come out? That's another thing. People want the good stuff off the bat, though. You have to search for that shit. If it's big on the mainstream and you find it right away, that's not because you had to search for it. That's because the labels and the companies put that shit out there.
Yeah. I remember when I like started to like read comics years ago, but it's like every fucking website, like top 10 comic series you have to check out, 90% of them are the exact same fucking comics, like just repeated over and over again.
same.
Uh then on the Matrix thing you brought up, like, would it matter? Like a knee jerk reaction if Will Smith was the main character? I would say yes, because I don't know. It's a black guy saving the world. And, like, in terms of, like, does representation matter that we were talking about earlier? It's like, yeah, it does. Like, white people want to see a white guy saving the world. Also, further point, I guess I would say with that is if Neo in that movie is now black, is Trinity black or is she still white? Because if she's still white, then yeah, it's just kind of like a further worldview that our white like male audience
Yeah, I
wouldn't go
get you. I
along
get you. I'm
with.
just saying that at that time when they did that, that was merit based, But now we're looking back on it with a new
Right.
pair of glasses. Hindsight's always 2020, but sometimes you get punched before you can look back.
Was it merit based though? I I don't know if it was.
I don't know if Will Smith or well, it's just like I
I'm
am
saying because I'm
Legend
just saying because
or
they wrote the Matrix with him in mind when they were writing the script.
Is this one of those things that marketing fixed once again? They wrote it from Will Smith, but that marketing was like, nah, it's a white dude, bro.
Nah,
And
cause
they
no, no,
saved
no,
the
no.
Matrix.
Will Smith turned it down. That's the thing. It wasn't his. It wasn't that he couldn't do it. I mean, in terms of unable to, where he wasn't
Oh,
there. It's like he couldn't do it. It's like Michael J. Fox. Michael J. Fox was the one they wrote Back to the Future for, but he couldn't do it at the time because it was another show he was doing at the same time. So they had a second actor come in, fill everything, and they literally delayed production on Back to the Future until Michael J. Fox opened back up, and then they were willing to refilm everything, and Michael was willing to do the shooting for Back to the Future at nighttime, while in the daytime he was doing his regular TV show because they really believed that much in the product. He was doing double
wait.
shifts for Back to the Future, yes.
So like I don't know. I guess we don't know that guy's name, but I'd probably put a gun in my mouth if I almost starred in Back to the Future and then I didn't. Like that's awful.
I know, but I'm saying that's how much faith they had in Michael. They were willing to delay the entire production. Like no one would fucking do that anymore. You know what I mean? That's say, oh, just green
Yeah.
screen your parts in like 2, 3 fucking days and do that. That's what I mean about that. Some of the best scripts in Hollywood have been written because they wrote a character with a specific actor in mind, and they were able to snag that actor.
guess that's done. Yeah. What is it? Right wing doesn't necessarily need money. We just thought that. I mean, this is something that I've noticed is that I mean I know we were begging for money from Nosh just a couple of minutes ago, but actually you don't need money. I feel like like people have this dream that big money is going to save them when you just really need talent. And I've seen so many small productions where small talent, like it outshines the major AAA stuff. So
Hmm.
maybe we need to get a mind out of the mindset of we need money and more in the mindset of like, is it good with what we have?
Gotta respect your scale, man. Again, if you're an indie production, you cannot expect to compete with Universal or Sony games in terms of your budget. You just gotta stay in your lane and make it work.
Yeah. And we're talking about like you said like The Thing and Blade Runner like they didn't make money. Like I they kind of became like or I don't know, cult classics, I guess. But like maybe, we have guys that create something and it doesn't like get big for a while, but like what matters is it has that quality, right? And then that like if it's that quality, like eventually it'll probably be found, right?
It depends. Are you willing to play the game and get famous later, or do you want to be famous now, now, now? Because some people are patient, others aren't.
We should
Right.
be
Yeah.
long term.
Now, my question is: place your bets. Will 2049 Blade Runner will that be seen as good later, or will it never be seen as good? Phone
I
lines are
didn't
open.
like it.
Hmm?
I'm gonna sound awful. I like 2039 more than the first Blade Runner.
Oh my
I
god.
like them both equally, but I'm also not that guy who
Well,
worships the first one as like this ultimate perfect film that you can't change one line of dialogue.
No,
I feel
I
like
don't think it's perfect.
the first one you're just seeing the guy get like beat up for like 20 minutes, and then like at the end the villain lets him go, and you're like, really, man? Like that's it? I don't know. Does K kung fu chop someone? And I feel like he does. Maybe I'm
If there
wrong.
was a director's cut, maybe.
I know he died at the end, which is gay, but
Yeah, my problem is that they just had to bring Harrison Ford back. Like, quit playing the
he
fucking
died for
deadbeat
Harrison
dad.
Ford's daughter. Thanks.
Like, if it was just some other person and not related back, to Decker, it could have been an anthology movie. I would have been fine. But I think it's for a lot of the problems that fans have with Blade Runner running issues. And I would agree on
Actually,
that
what
part.
movie? What were your problems with 2049?
Just unnecessary sequel, just like Blade Runner. It was good. Not like I don't consider it perfect, but like a good, enjoyable movie. Let it go. Like I just can put it in the same line of like maybe it's not like offensively bad for a sequel or a continuation, but just like let franchises die. Like the story that you want to tell is there. I think it's like is this robot human kind of deal? You answer like kind of sort of yes, like the experiences made it human. Like AI stories are like pretty fucking boring to me where it's like did it become human? Is it more than its programming? Like how many times can you tell that story? I just don't like Ryan Gosling. I hate that the younger guys like him. Just
I,
hate it. And like here's your
This dude doesn't
hologram
even know what to talk
waifu.
about.
well, Ryan Gosling's just an actor. Like, I don't love him. I don't even like. He's like, oh, I guess he's in the thing. I don't make my personality based off of him. Thank Lord for that.
Dude, you're totally right when you talk about like AI movies. Like, I fucking hate Ghost in the Shell because it's like an
Yes.
hour 30 of like, oh, is this robot? Does this robot have rights? I don't know. Like, I don't think so. That's it. And then they like spend 12. Like, they just have like 20-minute scenes of like Makoto staring out a window, and I'm like, I don't give a fuck, dude. I don't care.
That's why people love SAC more because actually combat based. Like you get to see like the robots just like blow shit up, fight back, and other cyber terrorism. Like it's closer to Deus Ex than the original one. But again, legacy times. A lot of times with legacy things, it's a right time, right place, and sometimes shit doesn't hold up for one reason or another. I mean, you don't like it because you're staring out the window, but imagine how a kid who grew up watching nothing but Marvel and TikTok feels.
Yes,
Where's the
that's true.
one-liners? Where's the quips? Where's Scarlett Johansson? We sidetracked unless you're watching the Hollywood Ghost in the Shell. In that case, there's lots of Scarlett Johansson, but not the right kind.
I actually
Hmm.
like the Scarlett Johansson version more. Like, I hate the original version so much.
I'm the
But
opposite personally, but that's just because I don't think ScarJo can
yeah,
hold her own solo film.
actually, White Media, like, I hear you reading, like, what didn't you like about Ghost in the Shell? Since I guess you watched it.
I mean, I saw it like years and years ago, but I mean, I don't know. It just felt like, I guess, like I would say, like typically anime fans will like hype things up like way, way too much. Where like this was an okay movie. I think Blade Runner is just like a better version of this. Like, I don't know, just like that. It was like fine. It was like a serviceable story, but it's nothing that I would like. Holy shit! I have to see this.
I
I
said,
kind of
Yeah.
feel that way with like Miyazaki, where it's like artistically, like
Yes.
visually, they're super beautiful, like amazingly well done. But I've never like been impressed with like plot or character from him.
I don't blame
Yo,
you at all for that. When
I'm
it comes to
speaking
the
truth
Ghost
right
in the
now.
Shell Blade Runner thing, I think it literally is down to preference. You prefer more of the Western or Eastern kind of take on cyberpunk. But for Miyazaki, it's because for most people, he's just the Disney of Japan. That's really what it boils down to. People want this, like with Disney in the West, people say Disney's amazing, but it's like this. It's like the same Disney film from the '90s. Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid. Like people don't want to talk about Fox and the Hound, or people don't want to talk about what was it, Robin Hood as much. And those movies they're not impressive, but they're serviceable films. Not very few studios put out an output of everything being a banger, and if so, it's usually not for long. And even then, what's impressive, again, back then when it
I think
first came out, like
people,
animation Marvel may not be as good today. Like Akira still holds up great animation wise, but story, yeah, nobody watches that shit for the story. What was it for Disney?
Yeah.
Like what was it? For Disney, what
yeah,
was the
fuck
big one?
Akira.
The Hunchback. That thing holds up story wise and animation wise, but more people remember Toy Story for groundbreaking animation. But has that CGI really aged well? Only because they use toys and not humans.
Yeah,
Hmm.
just going back, like I feel like people, maybe I'm wrong, they kind of blaze Miyazaki just because like he's an environmentalist and loves trees or something. Like I don't see the plot being that impressive, but like, oh, he cares about man, he's nature. We like trees. I don't know.
Part of it to Miyazaki, I
That type
think
of
part
shit.
of it is lost in translation. Like maybe some of it is a legit just a culture clash. You know what I mean? And so if you're kind of like
Yeah,
60s Japanese boomer, because that's what the hell he is. He's a 60s Japanese boomer that was told war is bad, your country messed up, fucked up, you got the nukes, and it's all your fucking guys' fault. Don't let it happen again. Of course, it's going to change how you see shit. You know, the same way how someone who grew up in the 70s and 60s in America is going to feel different than post 9/11 America. You know, that's going to affect how you
dude.
do things, how you think. Like even with the Blade Runner was and Ghost in the Shell, compare them. Back Runner was also had a built during that time when people thought Japan was going to take over the world, and they didn't. But when that happened, that's why you see a lot of the Asian influence in Blade Runner, because if they're going to be dying, have the other culture chokehold them. But in Ghost in the Shell, SAC, one of the tiny aspects they talk about is how Japan's a world power, but it comes at the expense of its own, you know, homogenous cultural identity. So is it worth being the best if it means giving up your cultural identity? And there's a little bit of conversation that with both, you know, the augments, who they get them from, who the opponents are, who the heroes are, who's willing to help, who's not. Something like some people don't consciously think of and just put into the work. Like, it doesn't just depend on what you're doing, you know, because I don't think you're gonna do that for writing an episode of Peppa fucking Pig, you know.
You know what I've noticed though about like Japanese entertainment is like they seem to be obsessed with the atomic bomb. It feels like a lot of stories just talk about that. Like I think Akira talks about it.
Okay, Akira. Okay, the atomic bomb is to Japan as Vietnam is to America. It's an old
Yeah,
scar that every time it almost heals up, there's always something they scrape against that opens it back up, or they pick the scab. That's the big thing.
yeah. It's just tiring, man. I'm just like, oh, another manga. Is it gonna be atomic bomb reference? I'm like, fuck.
Well, to be well again, bro. If it was, again, if the atomic bomb was just, you know, another Tuesday, like the bombing of Tokyo, they just
Yeah,
brushed it off, they probably wouldn't have cared as much. But because considering it made them pacifistic to this day, it's gonna be a big thing until Japan remilitarizes. Until they remilitarize, it's gonna be their biggest stick in the craw, stick in the mud. I forget the saying. But that's standards for you, you know. And what happens also? We got low standards. Like, do we accept Baldur's Gate 3, Bobby, Hogwarts Legacy? What do you do?
uh, did we already talk about this? Like accepting other
I don't
people's
think we did.
like,
Did we?
where we were
Uh,
like people accepting Barbie and stuff like that as like our shit and stuff like that.
right, because like can
Yeah,
have
we
like
did.
some control over the culture because if we're not engaging with Barbie, then I guess we'd have to like promote like and go with like our own artists and creative types, and that's like harder than just like making Ken memes, I guess.
Yeah. Actually, if I can add to that, and this goes back to something I forgot to talk about in um the other section, which was the subculture is. I feel like we don't give enough credit to artists that we have now. Like Stone Tots should be like an icon and right, like just he is a modern legend. You know what I'm saying? Or like Negative XP when he made the Scott Pilgrim girl song. I don't know if many people like why do we have to look back to like Conan or like Lovecraft when there's a lot of great people making great art today, you know? And I feel like we
Hmm.
don't give our side enough credit a lot of times in terms of making new things and new things that are great now. I feel
I
like we should copy those people.
I think going back is fine so long as you use it to get ideas and somewhat of a reference point, but you should not anchor yourself to that, and you should definitely not just try to be the same thing again nowadays. I mean, was it Star Wars? What was it? Star Wars was it Flash Adams and it was Flash Gordon, you know, and Buck Rogers.
Flash Gordon.
Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers. Those are the two things. If you look at them, they're very old school sci-fi, but those were the two big ones that inspired Star Wars. He went back, took it,
Yeah,
mixed it, added something new to it, and it became the biggest sci-fi phenomenon until what 8 years ago. Again, but he went back and he didn't stay there. He took it the past back with him and then added new stuff and shipped it off. That's what I think people need to do. If you want to read old westerns to get an idea, go for it. Add something new to it. You don't have. You want to read Conan? You want to read Tolkien? You want to read Is Edgar Rice Burroughs, I believe his name was, the guy who did John Carter of Mars and Tarzan, then yeah, read them and then take ideas from them, add to it, mix a pot, take 20, 30, 40 influences, smack them in there, launch it all out. But don't just be a pale imitation, because if you're a shit one, all I'll do is read the original one and we're going to be stuck in the fucking past again. We're going in circles like a fucking hamster wheel.
Yeah. Actually, Weapon do you think our modern guys are like we're thinking on the same level of a Conan or something, or are we not there yet?
Like making a new one, I think there's absolutely room you can. But the thing is, you have to be willing to accept that there's not one cookie cutter mold you can do things, you know? There's different kinds of cookies, you know? You could think of, like little, like ear cookies, biscuit cookies, um, flat cookies, like chocolate chip cookies, Oreo cookies. They're all cookies, but they're very different. But if you think cookies have to be one way, you're limited to what the hell you have to do with cookies. Same thing with fantasy, especially fantasy. If it's not medieval or Middle Earth, you're supposedly wrong. Like, why can't I have another Alice in Wonderland? Why can't I do a Mario Brothers? Like, let me do something crazy with the fantasy, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Uh, do we have like an equivalent of that right now?
Yeah.
I haven't read everything, right? I've definitely like seen some like really, really like good stuff. One of like my favorites for like short stories was this guy of like DMR Publishing, and there's just like this little short story, like maybe like 20, 30 pages or so, but like it like blew me away, like incredible. From like that last Troth video I did, like United States of Death, like that was very creative and interesting. And yeah, I did have some problems with it, but like it was like up there with like some of the creativity that I saw. So I think we have some for sure. I would say like yeah, there are guys that are just doing here's Lovecraft again. Here's my version of Conan, and these aren't like great. Some of them are like fine or good even, but I don't think they'll be like super impressive, but like in terms of just like nowadays, if you would just say like things are shittier now than they were like 10 years ago culturally, you'll be right. So people just kind of like check out of everything. So they just go back to the past. I don't think
Yeah.
just because something is new, it's great. Like, I don't think there's anything like creative or like worth taking notes on from like TikTok just because of like the nature of the format. It can't be good. I don't know if you could like do a great movie where it's like a guy and his like Tinder experiences and him like watching porn and just like working a shitty job. Maybe you could make a good movie of that, right? But it feels like maybe technology has just made interactions or whatever like I don't know less valuable or I don't know like I don't think I could write something with like smartphones or the internet really like the internet as it is like today for sure. I don't know if like I could do it well. It feels weird to me. I don't know. So maybe that's why people also like look backwards.
It's so interesting because I feel like this is like one of the most exciting times to live. Like, like uh
Every day I'm in the
Donald
bunker.
yeah, like Donald Trump is like getting assassinated, but and like, oh, there's war in Ukraine, and I feel like there's so much stuff to pull from, and I feel like our understanding of how like relationships work has furthered like the whole hypergamy stuff. Like people can make stories about stats and all this stuff. I don't know. I feel like maybe we haven't gotten to the writing, but I feel like there's a lot of theory out there that you could definitely pull from that's like very interesting.
Hmm.
But also, I wanted to give a shout out to you were talking about like one dude's writing I'm obsessed with right now. And I think it's really good as Phil Roth. I think he's fucking hilarious. I should probably send some stuff to Shimo because I don't think he's read them yet. But it's just like really, really funny out there stuff, and he's like kind of doing like the meta stuff where he calls himself Philma or whatever. But then it's just like the dude who's like, no, actually, it was just me. Like that shit's hilarious. So he's
Yeah,
dope.
yeah. I like his stuff, and it's like I think like yeah, like Stone Toss, right? Again, it's not like it's easy to like read a Stone Toss comic, right? It takes like no effort. But like this, it's like short little fiction. Like it's funny, it's good. Like so some like short form content can like be great. I don't think like if you like made a book, like a collection of all like the Stone Toss stuff, it would be like fine, but not like short form content can't like exactly stack up to like other media, but like it still like has a place.
Sure,
I think it has a value.
but I guess my point is like I think the comparison like is kind of wrong in the sense that I think Stone Toss is better than Peanuts. I think it's better than Dilbert. Um, I think it's a better. I'm not sure if it's better than Calvin and Hobbes. Calvin and Hobbes is like pretty. He has a bunch of like artistic skill to like back
Hmm.
it up. That was like super creative, but like for like 90% of the other comics, yeah, I think Stone Toss is like better than all of them, and I don't think a lot of people acknowledge that. So, but yeah, if you're
Well,
comparing it to Lord of the Rings, yeah, it's kind of different.
yeah, and that's another thing with like people that just like want to engage with this all like the old proven greats. It's like it's annoying where it's like maybe this up and comer guy like his art isn't like on par with like this master artist from a century ago, but like he's trying, he's doing some interesting stuff, and like he might get there or like uh yeah, improve where it's just we already have the greats. Why are we bothering with anything new? It's kind of a annoying mindset.
All right, I think we just have 7 and 8 left. So
And what you're saying about
you want
yeah, Calvin Hobbes is goaded. What you're saying about the why
to?
bother with anything new? Most of the right wing, for some odd reason, is conflict avoided and doesn't want to fuck up leftists with their art. Why is that?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if there's much to say on this. Honestly, I would just say stop being pussies. I'm tired of it. That's yeah.
Yeah, but just like we're the ones that get banned, we're the ones that get shadow banned, lose payment processing, banking, we can get doxxed, lose jobs, that type of thing. So I think naturally we're forced to be conflict avoidant. Like if you're caught on social media, like based epic, I love hate spree, like I don't know, maybe some Antifa guys calling your job or employer, right? So like
Yeah.
it we get to be like we're like forced to be in this position. I don't know. I'm kind of debating. I think I do want to do it where it's like it might be a really bad idea, but like booktubers, they're like 99.9% leftists and I don't really like them. And I might like make more to try to like reach other people, but like more aggressive videos against them. Like, here's this booktuber, and like, here are their books, and then just like, fuck you, cultural drive-by kind of a thing. Like, maybe we do need to be a little more aggressive to like, I don't know,
Are you saying about
get attention because you do need some like promotion and attention. And if you can like bait a leftist into promoting you or like making people aware of your existence, that's probably good. But you, I guess you
I
risk
don't know.
like getting canceled, I
the
guess.
other thing with calling them out is that if you aren't careful, you could unintentionally just turn into a drama back and forth, and lose the plot very easily. I think that's another thing. People just think,
Yeah.
oh, getting involved is just drama. I don't need to deal with this. It's like if you're gonna call them out and you have good articulated points, I wouldn't really say it's drama. But if it's a needless back and forth, which again, the internet's very easy to do, especially on websites like X. Yeah, I think people also are just afraid of falling into that trap or just make call response the same as that in their minds.
Like it does sound like a very funny idea. Um, for sure. That would be funny. Uh, I don't know. It's like of like when I talk about like fucking up leftists with their art, it's just like the content in of itself. Like if we're making books, I feel like it needs to be more right wing, and we should be more like okay with it.
Hmm.
I I don't really like know about like just going up to some dude and just like randomly be like, hey, your reviews suck. Like I don't know. That seems weird to me. Um,
Oh, not like their reviews, but like their books. kind of a deal. Like
Okay,
the
I
media
see.
they create.
I see.
Oh, that's
Like
fine. I
Brandon
think.
Sanderson. Yeah, yeah, I can see that. Again, like it just depends. Like I'm really weird about this in the sense that I really respect stuff when it's technical and it's like really good.
Hmm.
Um, like Bioshock Infinite. I mean, you and me, probably, we both watched those American Grogan videos. We both know what's up. Like pretty bad story in the moral sense, but I can't deny that like it's it's really technically well made. Like the gunplay looks good. A lot of the concept art and the vistas are like beautiful, and I can't really hate on that stuff. And it would be weird if I did.
I see what you're saying. Like when I was younger, like I really liked the movie To Kill a Mockingbird, right? And even today, like it's not a movie I enjoy anymore, but just like looking at like how it was written and shot and the acting, it's all very well done. That makes it like a very effective like kind of tool or weapon, if you will. So like uh I get that. Yeah, but like, where is it going? I don't think I had anything else. Just like
Yeah, I
I
think it
could
just
see like
depends. Like,
critiques against like To Kill a Mockingbird, but like you still like you're kind of even though maybe you don't want to, you kind of have to acknowledge that well, it was effective because like how well it was produced.
I guess there's like, what is it? Like maybe leeway for mistakes, because like the very rigid, stern way to do things would be you never do any negative reviews on other people because you don't want to like be give them energy, right, or stuff like that, and it's not good. But
Hmm.
maybe there's something to be said for if you really feel it in your gut, like you like I haven't read the Brandon Sanderson or whatever, but like you talking about it, like if you're like, oh man, I want to know this guy's opinion on like why Brandon Sanderson sucks, right? So it's like maybe if it's from a gut thing, like it has to feel really guttural, and then it's just like good. But I think like kind of forcing it is kind of the wrong way to go. Where you're like, I'm the negative review guy, so I gotta like make negative
Yeah.
reviews. Yeah.
And I
So
guess like if it is just like negative, I feel like it should be like a punch, like and a pivot. Like, hey, fuck that dude, but you should check out this stuff. You're at least like recommending maybe stuff from this side of things, or I
Mm-hmm.
don't know.
What you do, I'll find a problem, offer alternative solutions, and what you said about like games that are technically well made, I think that's the big one of the bigger problems with the right wing. Because think about it, if
yeah,
someone made a right wing Bioshock, I think people would play that shit in a heartbeat. You know?
bro, that would be the coolest
You
shit,
understand?
dude.
Did you ever hear the demo for the original abandoned prototype of Bioshock Infinite?
It was a demo.
Well, one like a cinematic cutscenes that they had
I
planned out of
remember
what the
there was like
gameplay
a
was supposed to be.
trailer.
Yeah, the trailer. That's what I meant. Yeah, sorry. Bag with
Yeah,
words.
where they were opening the tears, like,
Opening
and
the
it seemed like
tears,
that would be part
actual
of the game.
timeline, and
Yeah,
real dimension hopping, where both factions, left and right, were extreme civil war. To the case of where people were just to the point of, I just want this violence to happen so we just get the problem over and solved with. And your point was to kind of just try to find a way to de-escalate shit to where there was still some sort of tangible, not as violent resolution. It wasn't. It wasn't like, oh, violence is bad because bad. It's a case of no, the violence that needs to happen is going to be so widespread. It's going to be, but more poison is the cure. It's worse than the problem. But that game was too ambitious tech wise and too controversial story wise that the entire thing got flipped upside down, and it's now the Bioshock Infinite we know and have today. And honestly, that's probably why I don't stream that game, because every time I hear Bioshock, I never hear anyone talk about the design or the gameplay. It's always the fucking politics. That or it's not as good because it's a watered down version of the System Shock formula.
I mean, sure, but I think right wing Bioshock Infinite would have been cool, in my opinion.
Can be done. I mean, especially with if you learn from the Art Deco from them, the first that would be all three games, that would be great. I mean, if
Yeah,
that was some Wolfenstein, you can just change the enemies up. They don't got to be Nazis. They can be whatever kind of enemy you want as long as they represent an idea. You could do it. But why would I do that? I can just play another Doom wad instead. Or even if you gotta make that into a Doom wad, do it, you know?
Yeah, you got anything else to say on the waifu video, or
No, yeah, that was kind of it for that.
all right? So I think we're on the last question,
Yeah, so it's kind of long,
I guess.
but I'll read it though.
Yeah, yeah. Wait.
Thinking of the hate
Is it?
comments, can't tell if this is indicative of the entire right wing, but saying the truth actually nets you more hate, I don't know, than palatable basic ass conservative right wing stuff. I am scared of the average intelligence of the entire movement. Do they even want entertainment that reflects their
Yeah,
values? Do they even understand
I think
good
it was
right wing
tough.
art where they see it? How do you deal with an audience that is this fucking stupid?
All right, so this is just something that I saw because I watched your video, waifu media on Gamergate too.
Same.
Uh, I thought it was excellent. I thought you brought up a lot of good points, cognizant points, and just seeing the comment section. I don't know if they were bots, but because it seemed like the same guy with the same four-letter names saying like "no more yapping" or whatever. But if they are
Apparently, like,
real,
uh, sorry, but like I looked it up. Apparently, yapping is now something they say like on TikTok. If it's just someone like talking, and I guess there's like the screen isn't moving enough to like titillate their brains, so they call it yapping.
I'm
But
gonna bend you
whatever.
right now. That's really fucking retarded. Because there's a YouTuber by the name of Raging Golden Eagle. He has a couple of indie comics he put out. Legit, his screenshot, thumbnail, and the video is just a screenshot from an anime, has a subtitle. He just talks on and on and on. People love that shit. So it's clearly someone who clicked on your video expecting to see video game gameplay and nothing else.
well, yeah, and not only that, but like there were people who legitimately thought that like you were an SJW, and that and I was just like, I can't tell what is it if do they have cognitive function, like and then I think about my own art, like I'm creating art for these people. Is this really worth it? It's just I don't know how you like I'm gonna sound like I like arrogant, but it's almost like corralling cattle in a sense. I don't know.
I
Mmm,
think
beef.
maybe some of them like maybe watched like the first few minutes and then just like tapped like paused it, like wrote the comment and then just like left, like just assuming or I don't know. But yeah, I don't know.
Honestly, it's really, really tough because, I mean, I deal with this all the time with music. I'm a theory nerd. I cannot talk to people about theory, even other musicians, a good chunk of the time. So you have to talk about in vague terms like, oh, I like the way this feels, the vibe, the intangible shit. And then you have to narrow it down whatever bands they like by personal taste. But a lot of times they associate their personal taste with what's actually objectively and technically good because they refuse to increase their understanding and their palate. It's like, have you ever met those picky eaters? And I mean the ones that legit still eat like chicken tenders like a 5-year-old and nothing else. It's like
Mm.
that. There's a reason why you have more McDonald's than gourmet burgers anywhere else on the planet. It's just fucking easier. Sometimes you want to put things out, put some art out for them. You just gotta have faith that you will find the audience that appreciates you. You might not make gangbuster numbers, but if you can do your shit full time without having to worry about rent, you're set.
Yeah, but this is what I'm
Oh,
saying. Like it's like the bottom common denominator. Like, do they even like want entertainment that like reflects their values? Because I guess they just want game TM. Like I don't know what I'm supposed to do with these people. Uh, or I don't. You know the joke of like, I have breakfast, or what is it? Like they're like,
How would you feel if you didn't have breakfast this morning?
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
and then
yeah.
they're like,
It's
I didn't have breakfast though. You're like, no, just think for like more than 2 seconds. Like, I guess like to appeal to these people, you would have to go for like the lowest common denominator, and I don't, I don't know.
that's why pop music
This
is
is
the
just
way
me
it is.
complaining. This is just me complaining about people, which is probably not the best, but not the whole lot of needed to be said. Where people just need to be, I don't know, smarter, but just like watch. a whole video the whole way through or something. I don't know.
We can only hope.
Yeah, all right, yeah, they're dumb.
Mhm.
The end. Stop being gay. All right. Uh, yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, we're still gonna make entertainment. I guess I still am. So I guess I'm locked in with these people and just trying to figure out how it works. But I guess that's it. Yeah. So, Wipe Media, thanks for coming on. Any last words?
No, not really. Like, yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm not black pilled like at all about like the culture war or that. I think we're gonna get there, but
Takes
need
time.
to somehow like expand our audience to people that are just kind of disenfranchised by the stuff now. Maybe our creative types need to try like some new avenues.
They
We
might
obviously
have
don't
to
have the
just
budget
leave.
or
Maybe just have to leave the older generations behind. Just pick the new generation, raise them up. That might have to be it.
yeah. And then like maybe just other formats like we could get there if that like I don't know visual novels or whatever, and then just kind of grow from there. But yeah, I'm white pilled about it all.
Yay! What about
Oh
you?
yeah.
What about you, Cringe? Any last remarks?
Uh, Not really. Actually, this is I guess something we've been doing. Is there any entertainment or anything that you've been watching recently besides DeusEx since we talked about it that's been like cool that you thought was like good? Local media,
Uh, in terms of like watching,
just anything,
not
just anything
uh,
cool.
huh. I guess I'd have to go with the storyteller. Like it's free on YouTube. It's just kind of European folk tales. It's just kind of cozy. It's nice. Yeah, it's free, so check that out if you want. But I haven't like watched anything I would recommend lately besides that. And for games, it's just been Deus Ex and Invisible War. Oh, Shimo, do you know the band Kidney Thieves?
No, I'll need to check them out.
Okay, but that was like one of the only decent things in Invisible War is like they have some of that band's music, and I thought that was pretty cool.
All right.
All right, where can we find you? What media? Like shout out your links. What are you doing?
Oh, it's just like YouTube. It's kind of like media reviews, usually books, but sometimes other media like shows, movies, games. Now gonna do more games, and then Twitter's just at White Pill Media. I don't really do anything with Twitter except like repost like stuff, and then hey, here's a trough video, kind of a deal.
Yeah, I'll put them in the video description.
All right, I think that's it. All right.
Right, guys, thank you, King Cringe, and thank you, White Pill Media, for coming on. And this is Shimo signing off. Take care and raise those fucking horns.